Howdy everyone, and welcome to RAZZLECast. I'm Zachary Maurer, and as always, I'm joined by two of Razzle's mightiest heroes, Ryan Havens.
I am Iron Man.
And Alan Havens.
You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry.
And today's show will be part one of our 2 weeks of Marvel Madness, in which we rate every movie in the MCU, talk about our favorite Avengers, and discuss whether or not Taylor Swift started as a country artist. So RAZZLEcast, assemble! This is RAZZLEcast episode 27, Serpent Society. Boys, we're discussing the MCU today. And next week.
We are?
And most importantly, we're discussing that Taylor Swift is absolutely a country music artist.
1,000%.
Ryan and I talked about this earlier, and I was like, she's not a country artist. And then he played Love Song, and I was like, okay, I get, okay, sure.
Did you, forget? I don't understand.
He just fucking forgot.
Anybody who
just
checked in just to watch
Taylor
Marvel already clicked off.
The old Taylor is dead, and I feel like you forgot that. Alan.
And Coulson is dead.
We used to fucking jam to her country shit. What are you talking about?
I'm trying to keep Marvel references.
I'm Tony affected
Stark
by this.
Used to jam to AC/DC.
So Zach,
okay,
I want to explain what we did this week.
This week, we'll get back to that AC/DC thing, Alan. This week we all watched all of the movies from Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the MCU, except for Ant-Man. We will get to that next week, but we're watching all of the MCU movies leading up to Avengers Endgame. So today we'll be discussing all of the movies and giving you our ratings for every MCU movie. This is pretty exciting. I had a lot of fun, and I remembered a lot of things that I forgot about these movies over the course of this. What did you guys think of the experience of watching all of these movies this week?
Well, I had to grind to get these done, and I know you did too, Zach, because we had to film this episode actually a few days earlier than we typically would, so we didn't even get a full week. We really had like 4 days.
And it's like 24 hours worth of film.
So that was pretty wild. But we all made it through.
We did it.
But it was still super fun. We'll have more time to do the next week then. So
yeah, there's less films and more time.
But
I admittedly only watched half of Guardians of the Galaxy because I watched half a week ago, and so I just picked up where that left off. So I technically did not watch all of them. But,
that's fine. Well, you didn't need to say that. I would have trusted you.
No, I can't lie. I can't lie to our listeners. So why don't we start where it all began, boys? Iron Man.
Captain Marvel.
Well, if we're talking chronologically.
Yeah, it would have been the first Avenger.
No, we're hopping back to the great year of 2008. One of the years that really sticks out in my mind.
Or 2010 if you're following Marvel's timeline. Because Marvel's timeline says that this movie takes place in 2010.
That's
why
true,
not?
Yeah. That's fair.
Or if you're following Spider-Man's Homecoming's timeline where this takes place in like 2008. So, sorry.
It gets a little dicey. I guess over the course of this many movies, you lose the things like dates. But this movie's directed by Jon Favreau, and I guess we'll kind of just give our thoughts on the movies. Let's start with Ryan. Ryan, what do you think about Iron Man?
Iron Man is... I loved Iron Man. I remember watching it the first time when we were kids. Or kids. We weren't kids. Well, I guess we were kids still.
In 8th grade when it came out.
And I loved it then, and I've seen it like maybe once or twice since, but it's been years since I'd seen it. So I was a little nervous because whenever people ask me what my favorite Marvel movie is, I always say like Iron Man's up there is like one of my favorites. So I was kind of nervous it wasn't going to hold up, and it absolutely does. The comedy, it's honestly crazy how different it feels from any other Marvel movie now.
Yeah.
Like rewatching it, it just feels so very different, but in a good way. And I love the comedy. The pacing is just like on point. With this, like we go from set piece to set piece. I love like the first sequence where we introduce to him our introduction to Tony Stark and him having to escape right off the bat, and just kind of setting, I don't know, just kind of giving us an idea of what he is capable as a person. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys want to add a couple things before we continue, because I know if I keep talking, I'll go on a tangent.
Yeah, no, that works. Alan, give me your like brief, quick thoughts here, and then we'll all kind of gush.
Sure. So yeah, I think Ryan said pretty much a lot of what I was going to say, there, because it is so, it is a movie that is one that I always think back to, like, think that's like one of the best, but like, gosh, it's been a while. Like, I watched it actually probably a couple months ago too. Oh gosh, it was probably like 6 months ago or so. No, it would have been longer than that because it wasn't on the podcast.
Actually, it was 5 years ago.
I watched it when it came out, guys. But I know that I'd been trying to go back and watch all these movies before. And I was a big fan of this movie always growing up, and being able to watch it again today, Ryan is right. It totally holds up. Actually, one of the things that I was a little bit shocked by is how well Jeff Bridges does as Obadiah Stane. I actually think he's one of the more underrated Marvel villains in a studio that doesn't have very good villains for the most part. I think Obadiah Stane is actually pretty solid.
Yeah, for me, this is maybe the third time I've seen Iron Man. Watched it. I don't even think I saw it in 2008. I think I probably saw the movie like maybe 2010. And then this is probably the third time I've seen it overall. And I always used to think that Iron Man was overrated. I don't think I've seen it for like 5 or 6 years. So I used to be like, oh yeah, it's good. But no, it's fucking great. It holds up, and I really, really enjoy this movie. Robert Downey Jr. is incredible. I mean, there's no real questioning that. I think this might be. I mean, I haven't seen all of them recently. I've seen all of Phase 1 and Phase 2 recently. I think this is probably his best as Tony Stark in Phase 1 and Phase 2, at least.
I was gonna say, do you get caught in a lie there? I haven't seen any of these movies recently.
I haven't seen all of them. I haven't seen all of them.
I know. I was kidding.
But I also think that I really enjoy. I don't know how to say this guy's last name. Sean Taube as Yinsen. I think that relationship is really great as well. Yeah, and Yinsen's such a great character. I really enjoy pretty much all of this movie. I don't think there's really one part of the movie I don't like that much.
The only thing that I don't, if we're getting into negative, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
The only thing that I think is the only flaw of the movie, as far as I'm concerned, is putting Obadiah in a suit at the end. I understand it's like he's in the comics. I'm sure that's his thing.
He's probably Ironmonger in the comics.
Yeah. So I get it, but I just didn't think that was the right way to make the conflict and resolve. Was having him fight, just have a fist fight with him at the end, and it just didn't really work that well for me because the fight wasn't. It was a lot more clever than the fight in Iron Man 2. Obviously, but we'll get to that. But it was the only like minor thing, and also I thought I loved Obadiah as a character, and I especially love Jeff Bridges' portrayal of it. I especially love the line when he goes in to talk to the one scientist, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna build this mini arc reactor," and he's like, "It's impossible." And he like turns to the screen,
built it in a cave with scraps.
I love that.
I'm sorry, I'm not. It's great because it also builds up Tony Stark when the guy's like, "I'm sorry, but I'm not Tony Stark." Like, because they it's sort of because we see it happen. And I think as like an audience, it's like, yeah, he did it. Somebody else could do it. But like they really build up exactly how impossible it is, how impossible it is, and how smart Stark is.
So the only thing I didn't like about his character also is that I think they meant a little too evil. I don't think they should have had his.
He gets
character.
A little mustache twirling.
I didn't like that they had his character. I really didn't like that they had his character put the hit on Tony. I thought that was really.
I would have rather
cheesy.
Yeah, I would have rather.
He had no reason to think that Tony
capitalizing on it.
Yeah, there was no exactly. I thought it should have been more reactionary. I don't like that they. Would have made more sense for me. Like it didn't seem like Tony was a threat to him to take anything away from him or whatever. Like I mean, I understand like he wanted to run the company, or whatever, but like. I just thought that was a little.
Seemed like he had things a little handled.
Because I thought it would have been better if, like, after Tony, like, Tony's decision is what made Obadiah react the way he did and try to take it away from him. Mm-hmm. Like, that would have made more sense to me. Him putting in the hit, it just was a little too much for me.
Mm-hmm. I buy that. Like I said, I think he's one of the better Marvel villains in a studio that doesn't have a ton of great villains. Real quick, because I just wanted to say this is probably, we won't talk about it during the Avengers. So this is Terrence Howard as James Rhodey. This is the only movie that he plays Colonel Rhodes in. Don Cheadle takes over in the Avengers. real quick, what in the limited amount that we see Terrence Howard, who do you prefer, Don Cheadle or Terrence Howard?
I prefer Don Cheadle, I think.
I like them both.
I like them both,
I
but
really
I like them
like
both for
Terrence
different
Howard
reasons.
in this.
They don't play the same.
No, they play it
character,
very
they play it
differently.
very differently.
That's why I think I like Don Cheadle. Like, I feel like I like Don Cheadle's Rhodey better, but like I don't think Terrence Howard's bad.
I like them both. I think they both had chemistry with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
So I actually liked how both of their dynamics worked with him.
Yeah, I think I would have been interested to see what Terrence Howard would have done in the suit, but but it's unfair because it's based off of the fact that I've seen it. I think I believe Don Cheadle's a little bit more as War Machine, like as the War Machine character. I think I would buy it more. But I think it's also because I've seen more.
I almost buy Don Cheadle as War Machine, and I buy Terrence Howard more as like Colonel James Rhodes. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense because that's what you got.
Well, that's true. That is fair. That's 100% fair. Yeah.
Okay, we should move on to the next film.
But first,
we should give scores.
Yeah.
We should give scores.
Let's do that.
Who wants to go? Zach, you go first. You don't get to go first often.
I'm so sorry. My phone just went off. Hold on. Go ahead. I didn't have my phone on silent. All right,
Zach.
Yeah.
So I thought at first just that was Alan saying, Zach, do you want to give your score?
Okay. Well, you're gonna have to make a note then.
I got it. It's fine.
Okay. Okay, Zach, you don't get to go first often enough. Why don't you give your score?
I would love to. I think that Iron Man is a really good movie, and it's one that I will definitely go back to over and over again. I'm going to give Iron Man an 8 out of 10. Alan, do you want to give your score?
Sure. You're usually host. Am I supposed to take over from that spot?
You kind of took over there for a second. I was waiting for you to like kick it to Ryan.
Sure,
or something.
I'll give my score. Iron Man. It's one of the best of the first set of Marvel movies. It's an 8 out of 10 for me as well. Ryan?
I'm also going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's one of my favorites. I personally love this movie, and it's just super solid.
Excellent. Let's move on to a movie that...
Incredible.
What?
Sorry.
The
next movie is The Incredible Hulk. Alan, that was an excellent segue.
Thanks.
So we're going to be seeing the only movie that Edward Norton plays Bruce Banner in the MCU. And Ryan went first last time. Alan, would you like to give me your initial thoughts on The Incredible Hulk?
Okay, so The Incredible Hulk, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of my top 3 favorite superheroes, them being Superman, The Incredible Hulk, and Ms. Marvel. This is sad for me because it's not that it's... So here's the thing. I knew it was bad going in, so I actually liked the movie more than I thought I was going to. My rating, though low, is as high as I could humanly give it. But like there's a lot that I actually liked, and I think if this movie was made today with all that they know about the MCU, they could make a very similar movie and still have it be like Doctor Strange level good, where it's like it's fine. This one is unfortunately not that great. I do think Edward Norton is actually much better as Bruce Banner than I originally thought. I think he actually pulls off the runaway Bruce Banner, the one that's, running from being caught by the army and all of that, and in this case S.H.I.E.L.D., which is really weird. I don't think that at the time that they did... Here's the thing, with this movie, I'm going off on a few tangents. With this movie,
that's cool.
They definitely didn't know what S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to be yet. Because I think that they're still like, this movie is almost operating under like Winter Soldier S.H.I.E.L.D. because like Thaddeus Ross is going after the Hulk, but he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. And there's a lot of things, but the post-credit scene makes no fucking sense where Tony Stark...
It's not even a post-credit scene. It's literally just
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's at the end of the movie.
It doesn't make any sense. It's
where
so
Tony
weird.
Stark goes up to they literally made a small thing to explain, like a small... They called it a one shot, but like a small short film. It's not a short film. It's 5 minutes or whatever. But to explain, yeah, I guess, yeah. So to explain why that scene exists, and it's so dumb. But it's like, okay, fine. This movie doesn't really seem to know where it fits
after Iron Man 2, right?
It takes place, yes. It takes place in the same week as Iron Man 2. It also takes place in the same week as Thor. Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor all take place in the same week.
That's wild.
Yeah, they had
I didn't know that.
They had a comic. A tie-in comic called Fury's Big Week, and it covers how all of these things happened at the same time. It's kind of cool.
Okay, so
and Liv Tyler's bad. Sorry,
the movie starts off.
To show that
the movie starts off with Bruce Banner hiding out in Portugal, working at a soda bottling company.
Mm-hmm.
He's working in like a warehouse, and I love that. The beginning, the first like 30 minutes of the movie, I love him on the run. I actually thought it was. I actually really enjoyed it. I was like 30 minutes. I was like, I might actually like this movie. And then we get back to New York, and yikes.
A lot of that's Betty's fault. Some of it's Tim Roth.
No, I mean, well, you can blame. Yeah, I'll say we can keep kicking Liv Tyler here. She was pretty horrible with her weird whisper voice and that honestly shocking taxi scene.
I like the taxi scene, but
I don't
very
like the taxi
bizarre.
There's a taxi scene.
It's very bizarre.
I'll explain to you viewers who have not seen this movie in a while. Like I did not remember the scene. I wish I had, because it's now it's sticking with me forever, and I love it. It's a scene where they're like, okay, like Bruce and Betty are like, okay, we have to take it. I don't know where they have to go somewhere.
They're thinking that they think they have to take the subway, but he's like, that's a bad idea
because if he turns to the Hulk. And so like, okay, we're gonna take a taxi, and she's let me preface this really quick. It starts off the whole movie, she's talking like this, like most of the time, like she's so soft. Bruce.
Hulk has good hearing.
Like it's very soft the whole time. And then we get into this taxi, and I don't understand like what they were thinking. She just explodes, like screaming at the taxi driver when they get out. She's like, "You're an idiot," or whatever. I don't know what she says. Like, "You fucking idiot," or something. And then he looks at her and he's like, "Oh, I have some." It was all for this dumb gag where he's just like, "I have some things to help you relax your anger," and she's like, "Shut up, Bruce," or something like that. It's horrible.
I don't think it's horrible. I think that
I
honestly
horrible.
believe I believe that that scene stays if that movie is made today. That is the type of comic book shit.
It felt so out of nowhere.
No, it's fine. First of all,
it's not fine.
It's not just fine. It's the best scene in the movie.
It's like, first of all, it's not just fine. It's thematically important. It needs to be in there. You can't make a Hulk movie without that.
That's what we've been missing since.
Oh my!
But in
God.
all seriousness, like if we move on from that, the only thing that I think kind of disappointed me, and it's a similar thing to with Iron Man 1, is the villain Thunderbolt Ross, who I think William Hurt does an awesome job with, but I think they make him too mustache twirly again. Like they made it a situation where it's like, oh, he's trying to get the Hulk to make weapons, and it's like, what, like, or to use him as a weapon and to use it to like enhance other soldiers or whatever. But it's like, I don't understand. Like, why couldn't it have been just a reactionary? He's trying to save
like he is
the
in
world.
like in the comics. He's
him
there
more
to
gray
be like,
area character.
He's scared of him. He's not scared of him. He doesn't like him. He doesn't like him because he dated his daughter, but he also doesn't like the monster that's killing people. There's enough of a reason to dislike Hulk. I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I think that he's done pretty poorly. I think that a lot of it's done poorly. I think that it's crazy that there's so much setup in this movie that never comes out. Like, Betty Ross is never explained again.
Yeah.
Ty Burrell is Leonard Sampson, who's like a super important Hulk character. He's just a douche boyfriend.
He's just there for... No, he's not even a douche boyfriend.
No,
he's like nothing wrong.
You're right. He's just a boyfriend.
That whole side story
I want to
was
hate him
so
because I want...
Why do you hate him? The poor guy got cheated on.
I want to hate him because...
For no reason.
Because I like Betty... Well, I always want to say Betty Banner because I have read ahead.
Oh shit!
But no, but like I mean, they keep Emil Blonsky's Abomination alive. They set up the leader with Samuel Stern's character. I don't know if that gets taken care of off screen. They're just like, nah, his brain just did that. That's fine. So yeah, there's a lot of setup that just never comes through. I think one of the most disappointing things for me as a Hulk fan is that Betty Ross is never really addressed again.
And she's so bad in this movie.
She's bad.
In this movie.
Bruce.
I remember her being better.
I love Mary Jane, and Mary Jane is awful in the Raimi trilogy.
Yeah.
So
I remember her being better in the 2003 Hulk movie.
Oh, Ang Lee's Hulk?
Jennifer Connelly, I think, played her. I remember her being better, but also that movie is not very good, so I could be wrong.
Speaking of not very good movies, no, I'm just kidding. Let's actually do the ratings first.
Okay, can I say one thing though, real quick?
Sure.
I think the character designs for the Hulk and for Abomination are really fucking ugly. I don't know if anyone...
the
the
Hulk looks
CG in
terrible.
general is
Yeah.
awful. We didn't even talk about
The
that.
Hulk looked terrible, and this was before when they didn't realize. I think in Avengers when they do the Hulk, it's great because they were like, "Hey, why doesn't he just maybe have some body fat? Like people will still believe he's strong, right?"
I don't understand why his
0%
muscles are
body
all
fat.
like they're all like
I think it's
ribbony.
a weird
Yeah,
weird
it's
transition
weird.
from comic books that I just don't think works, because in the comic books I think that you want to draw that muscle and really show him being this hulking creature, but I think in real life it just looks weird and not right.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it was the wrong choice, and they inevitably agreed. But
Yeah.
ratings.
Yes,
Okay.
certainly. Alan, give me your rating for The Incredible Hulk.
Guys, if you guys like this movie, I'm so sorry. This is the highest that I could give it. I tried to make a play for a higher one in my head, but I was like, there's no way. It's a 3 out of 10 for me.
Ryan?
I couldn't.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologize. It's 3 out of 10. Fuck you.
It's a bad movie, and I'm not sorry about it. I'm with you there, Ryan. It's a 3 out of 10. So.
You can like the movie if you like it. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not my worst
Oh.
favorite in this group, if that
Yeah.
helps.
You just be wrong.
You can
is
like
what it
anything
was.
you want. It's just fine. Speaking of, if you can like anything you want and you'd be wrong about it, Iron Man 2 is the next movie we're going to discuss. I guess I'll go first, give my brief thoughts about Iron Man 2. I was excited to watch this movie because I like Iron Man. This is not a good movie. Mickey Rourke's Ivan Vanko is terrible. And I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with Black Widow yet. Those are my really brief thoughts, and I'll kick it to Ryan for your brief thoughts before we get into our discussion.
Yeah, the whole stuff. I mean, just starting off with the really quick with the Natalie Rushman / Natasha Romanoff thing.
First time we see
that
her.
was very odd. Her whole involvement didn't feel like it made a lot of sense. It felt so forced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that was that's the kind of stuff I hate to see from you kind of get from some of these movies that are trying to have cinematic universes in the beginning.
Mhm.
Like The Mummy with Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels so forced and out of nowhere. It's like she doesn't really have a real place in the movie. She's just kind of there.
I would
to
have
a cool
rather
fight sequence later.
I
on.
would have rather her have a role like Hawkeye in Thor, which we'll get to later, where it's just kind of a small thing.
Yeah, he's just
Because
kind of.
I think the thing
His-
was they
his is
didn't want
also
to
pretty weird,
they
to be
didn't really
honest.
want to just introduce them in the Avengers, and I get that because it would have made them have to do more in that movie. So yeah, but I would to be honest, her fight scene in this is one of the best things in the movie, in my opinion. In Iron Man 2, her fight scene in Iron Man 2 is really, really cool. Yeah, I think similarly, yeah, this is here's the thing. I don't even know if Justin Hammer and Mickey Rourke, Justin Hammer was played by who again?
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, yep. And Mickey Rourke's Ivan Vanko. I don't know if they're as bad as I think, but the problem is that they just literally don't do anything for 90% of the movie. Mickey Rourke has that opening fight, and then he's just working until the final part
And
of
he
the movie.
wants his board.
Yeah.
I want my board.
That's not my
But
board.
then he didn't get his bird, but he likes the bird. And I know Justin
actually a
Hammer's
pretty good
almost.
impression.
That's actually not that bad.
You want your bird? This goes up. This is a beautiful bird. It's not my board.
That's not my board.
So yeah, I mean, we get some more Samuel Jackson. This is really the first one where he really gets a role outside of the post-credit scene. So there's that, and we get some Natasha Romanoff. Those are both characters that have large roles later on. But gosh, I don't know. To be honest, the best thing of this movie is Robert Downey Jr., and he's going to be the best part of most movies that he's in.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me with this movie was it felt really oddly paced in really bad ways. It felt, and I think the politics are fucking hilarious in this movie.
Yes.
When they're right in the board meeting right in the beginning, he basically is just oh yeah, this giant weapon, I get to keep this because, and they're like, no, you shouldn't be able to. He's like, oh, I'm gonna keep it. And then nothing happens. He just gets to keep it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fuck you, Mr. Stark. And he's
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't I don't see why he gets to. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it is for this world, but like, I don't really see how he can really make a play for that. I mean,
Yeah.
there are laws. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I was getting throughout the movie, the pacing is so weird. Like it's like he kind of like there was a couple things I liked in the movie, and I can say that about every single movie on this we're going to talk about today and next week. But he kind of disappears from being Iron Man after he fights Rhodey, like semi towards the middle for like a long time, and it's like weird because it kind of feels like without purpose. And I almost like this one. I almost fell asleep because I got like halfway through the movie. I was like, to the point with Rhodes. I was like, this movie's not as bad as I remember. I was like, this movie's it's fine. It's not like
halfway through.
bad.
That's where I was at.
Fine. And then like when we got to that like he goes like to the donut shop and he talks to Nick Fury. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, what does this have to do with anything? And then you find out about Natasha, and it's like, who cares? This has nothing to do with the fucking movie. And like again, like we're stuck with like both. I want my board. He's not doing anything, and Justin Hammer isn't doing anything, and it just gets really
no
boring.
suit thrown better. Like it's like really keeping this up here. You just working in this lab. As we mentioned previously, this is Don Cheadle's first step into Rhodey. We kind of touched upon that, but I just wanted to mention that here and say that. So. Anything else you guys want to talk about for Iron Man 2? I don't feel like saying
I'm ready
really
for scores.
anything
I feel
else.
good just throwing a score out.
Fantastic. Alrighty, Ryan, give us your score for Iron Man 2.
I give Iron Man 2 a 4 out of 10.
All right, Alan.
I think I'm going to be the first to break the trend of us all being together. I give it a 3.5 out of 10. Just a little bit worse than where you think it's at.
And
still better than the Incredible Hulk, sadly.
yeah, and I'm going to give Iron Man 2 a 4 out of 10. So, excellent. Let's move on to something that rhymes with 4, Thor.
Thor score, and my review is in. I don't know.
Alan, you watched Thor, right? Yes,
No.
you did. We all
No,
did.
I did. I watched all of them.
Why don't you give me your brief thoughts on Thor here real quick?
I was going to, but I actually want to have Ryan because I know that Ryan has
good
always
point.
been someone who's said that he doesn't like Thor and Thor is a bad movie, and I want to know where he's at now.
So I used to fucking hate this movie. I remember watching it the first time. I rolled my eyes so hard. There was so much stuff that I just really didn't like, and I wasn't even into like Loki and everything at that point. I think I was like kind of half watching when we were watching because Alan and I kind of got on board with these Marvel movies a little bit late.
Same.
Not like
So did
super
I.
late, but like right after Avengers came out, Alan and I watched all of them.
We'd watched
Iron Man,
and
Iron
Hulk.
Man 2.
I
and
watched
Hulk.
Hulk because I was.
We watched Iron Man 2, and Hulk, but we hadn't watched Captain America or Thor. Those only, I guess we kind of did watch all of them except for those two. But we binged them both right before we watched Avengers 1, and I fucking hated it. I rewatched it, and my feelings have changed a lot. I've actually rewatching it this week. I actually enjoy the movie now. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of dumb shit in this movie, but it's fine. And I think the things that really work for this movie, especially, are Loki for one is just by far the best character.
Yeah,
and he's handled super well. I actually really like what they did with this character. I remember I was watching it, I was even thinking like, oh, they're making him just do mustache twirly, but the fact that like he didn't sell, he actually was lying to the Frost Giants. That was actually a detail I somehow had completely forgotten. He he was still using his silver tongue to put himself into advantageous positions. So I thought his character was actually pretty cool, and I actually really enjoyed his character a lot. I actually thought he was a super deep character, and he was very sympathetic. He was good. Thor was okay. Loki was the thing I think that carried the movie, but otherwise I think it was fine. There's a lot of shit that I really fucking hate. Like all the weird fucking Dutch angles throughout the whole fucking movie.
I was gonna say this movie is fucking riddled with Dutch angles. Like every other fucking shot.
It's directed by Kenneth Branagh. I don't know why he decided to have all these like slanted, fucked up angles. I can't stand them, and they're ugly as fuck. The movie is like really ugly for that reason, in my opinion.
I read an interview that said he was trying to evoke comic panels, but like that are sometimes tilted, but it's like sometimes in every other fucking shot are different, Kenneth. Like,
Gross.
ugh.
It was really like weird. It almost made me like nauseous. I was like, why are we doing this so often? But yeah, I couldn't stand that. All of the side characters in this are bad, and that's a trend you're going to get with Thor 1 and 2.
Except Loki, if you count him.
Other than Loki, but
Yeah.
all the side characters.
I would say Odin.
Oh no, Odin's fine. I'm talking about like his sidekicks on both Earth and in
Mhm.
and
Heimdall's okay, but he doesn't have a lot to do.
Heimdall's not okay. He's just there. He has nothing to do.
Heimdall's the
you want to say he's
not
okay
inherently
because you
bad.
want to like Idris Elba.
Idris Elba's the biggest waste in
and
the
he's
Marvel
good
Cinematic
later,
Universe.
but he does nothing.
Well,
he's just there.
that brings me to an important thing that I need to ask you guys. This is Josh Dallas's only take as Fandral. Do you guys prefer him or Zachary Levi, or who cares?
Who gives a fucking shit? That's for sure.
They give these characters nothing.
I'm gonna say
they have
what I think
nothing.
might
The
be
Warriors
a
3 are
hot.
nothing.
Can I say something I think might be a hot take?
Go,
Sure.
hey, no.
No.
Go ahead.
Moving on. Okay.
No. What was it?
This is I think a hot take. I used to think I didn't like Jane Foster and Thor, right? And I think
Oh.
it's because I hate them in every other movie, basically just The Dark World, because it's the only other movie with Natalie Portman. I don't think their chemistry is terrible in this movie.
So this movie, I would. Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that everyone else I don't like. I don't even like Eric Selvig. Like I don't like Eric Selvig.
No, he's
I don't like
boring.
Kat Dennings. I don't like anyone else in this movie.
She's annoying.
But I do actually think that their chemistry in this movie is pretty good.
What helped me on this movie as well is I didn't realize they don't say they love each other in this movie.
Mhm.
It's just an infatuation, and there's nothing wrong with that. And they're interested, and she's interested in him, and she helped. Like it makes a little bit more sense, I think. But one thing I think that would have made this movie better is if there was like a time gap of him being on Earth. Like do a montage, have it take place over time. Let it settle down a bit.
Not a
Don't want to
couple
be there for only
days.
2 days.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that. Like I said, they don't love each other or anything. Like but I don't know. I think that would have helped the movie kind of settle in a little bit, and kind of let Loki settle down in his position and let Thor settle down in his position a little bit to kind of like let the movie live in itself a little bit. Otherwise, I think the movie's fine. It's not like amazing. I think Loki is definitely the best part. I'm not sold on Chris Hemsworth in this movie at all, and I'll talk more about Thor: The Dark World later. He's okay. He's serviceable at best. But yeah.
Can we talk about one thing real quick about Thor in this movie? He looks so fucking weird with his like eyebrows and his facial hair dyed blonde. Like it just
Yes.
looks so
It's
fucking
so funny.
strange.
It's so funny.
I think it's weird that it takes 3 of his solo movies and like 4 or 5 like total movies for them to be like, let's completely like who cares? It doesn't have to be like 100% comic book. Like he doesn't have to be like exactly like the comic book.
He looks much better in Thor: The Dark World.
He looks,
Yeah, I
and he
think
does
it's because
actually.
they
He looks better in Avengers.
I think it's
too,
because they don't
as
dye
well.
his eyebrows. Like it looks so weird.
A lot of it is the eyebrows. I think.
It looks so funny, honestly.
There was one scene I noticed. Like I noticed. I was like, something is weird about Chris Hemsworth. And then they like slam Thor's face into like a mirror or something, and I'm like, his fucking eyebrows are dyed. Like that's what's weird about it. All right, cool. Let's score Thor, and we'll move on. So, Alan, what's your score for Thor?
Score Thor, and I'm just trying to do the thing Ryan did.
Thor score and 7 years ago.
It's
that
not a
movie
7.
came out 8
Uh-huh.
years ago, I think, actually.
So, I like Thor. I still like Thor. This probably wasn't much of a deviation of where I expected Thor to be. It's a fun movie, and Loki is one of the best characters in the MCU. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Alrighty, Ryan, what's your score for Thor?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. It's pretty flawed, though, in a lot of ways. So I would give it a 5.5 out of 10. And I'm going to say this to any new listeners. The way we review movies, it might be different than how some other people do. A 5 is like average. That means like it's not bad, it's not good. And if it's anything over a 5, it means I'd recommend seeing it. So
Yeah.
It's not like a 50%. That's not how we do it. It's,
Right.
It's different. So, but we
probably should have done that earlier, but it's a good time to do it now.
So like if we give it an 8, that means it's insanely good. Like it's hard to get 9.
A 9 is like one of my favorite
almost
movies
impossible to get
of the year, and 10 is like I have like 2 or 3 to 5 movies probably in my 10s.
But yeah, I give this a 5.5.
Alrighty. I gave Thor a 6 out of 10. So there we go. There's our ratings for Thor. Let's move on here to the next movie in the MCU, Captain America: The First Avenger. Alan,
Zach, give me your thoughts.
I tried to kick it to you.
I know, but I'm giving it to everybody else.
There we go. That's fine. That's perfect.
Well, no, but you haven't gotten to go first, I don't think yet. So.
I went first once. I'm actually keeping track and trying to kick it to you, but that's fine.
I can go.
No, I don't care.
He really wanted to do Avengers first.
No, actually, Alan will do Avengers first. That's perfectly fine. I'll do Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm going to give a little bit of a story here. I love Captain America. I think his trilogy is the most consistent in the MCU. I like this first movie a whole hell of a lot. I think
that was a crazy story, man.
It was so fucking crazy, dude.
Just wait.
This is why I don't like.
I want to
this is
see where
why
it
I
goes
don't like
crazy.
going first. I hate this. I just like commenting. Leave me alone. Okay.
I'm waiting for it to get crazy.
You done? Are you done now? So I think that this movie does a really great job of telling Steve Rogers' origin, which is honestly it's what his job is, but I think it does a great job of doing that. I love seeing Steve as Steve and not as Captain America. I think Chris Evans does a really good job of, despite the effects looking a little weird sometimes, I think that Chris does a really great job of selling us on who Steve is as a person and sort of what his motivations are to join the military and his love for Bucky. I think this movie is brilliantly pulpy and campy. I really actually enjoy that about the movie. And I think that Hugo Weaving's Red Skull is a pretty good villain. I wouldn't say he's like the best, but I think Hugo Weaving is pretty good as him. So what do you guys think? Alan?
Sure. So I think similarly to you, I love this movie. I think I think it's great. I think I think I like Red Skull a lot. I think he's one of my I think he would be. I think that it would have been nice to see him. It's unfortunate Hugo Weaving didn't want to come back as the character, because I think he would have been a really cool Avengers villain at some point.
Oh yeah.
And I think he would have been a really cool, especially because and as we know now, by the way, spoilers for the entire MCU. That feels like it should go without saying, but like I'm going to spoil things that happen in Infinity War now. They did leave the door open for him to come back, and I think that that's because they originally intended on having him eventually be an Avengers villain by having him teleported to what eventually we found out was where the Soul Stone was. But yeah, no, I think it would have been cool to see him come back. I think this movie's great. I think I also like Toby Jones as, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his character's name, Arnim Zola. I think he's awesome in the minimal role that he has. And I was excited when he came back in Winter Soldier as well. I also like Chris Evans absolutely owns the role of Steve Rogers, and he will for the rest of the time that we watch these movies. He's great consistently, and there's never a moment where I'm like, oh, I don't think he would do that or anything like that. I think he's done really well. Peggy Carter was great. Gosh, it's just everyone in this movie. Similarly, other than Bucky, I just don't care much about his side characters. They're not given as much, even as much as the Thor characters, and we're not expected to care about him as much, but his side characters are
I would also say Bucky's not even given that much in this movie either.
Yeah, he's kind of just best friend.
Yeah.
I would agree with pretty much everything you guys have said. So I'll just kind of point out some of the negatives that I had, but I love the movie, so don't take me only talking about negatives as me not liking the movie, because they kind of covered everything I feel as well. The only thing is that the only problems I really have with the movie is I actually don't like Red Skull all that much. I don't think he's that interesting of a character throughout. I think he's fine. He's fine, if anything. I think he's serviceable his character, it's a little too cartoony, I think, for me at times. Tonally, it kind of is a little weird at times. And I also don't love how kind of like batshit crazy the movie seems to get after the midway point. Because I really liked in the beginning, like how we're kind of building up his friendship with Stanley Tucci's character, the German scientist.
Abraham Erskine.
Abraham Erskine. And kind of then when he actually gets the serum, him having to do the war bonds to sell those, I thought was really cool. And like his like punching Hitler, I thought was like all that stuff was like I thought great. And then like second half, it just kind of goes off the rails a bit. And Peggy's a fucking maniac.
Yeah,
that's not a negative. I just think it's funny.
She also first off, she has never made her interest in him clear enough for her to be upset at the fact
she's his superior.
For her to be upset at the fact that she saw him kissing somebody. And also, even if she had full right to be upset, she has no right to shoot a gun at him at a shield that might work.
She is a fucking maniac.
That whole stuff was
Peggy,
really cute, though. I love like the I did love like those characters' relationship. I thought was really good. One of the better handled like relationships of any of these movies. Unlike what we totally fucking didn't even mention with Stark and
Pepper
Potts.
Oh yeah,
which their relationship is fucking really good too.
Yeah.
Probably the best in all the movies.
I would say it is the best.
But yeah, no, I think in this movie it's fine. It's pretty good. I liked it a lot actually. I don't know why I said it's fine. It's pretty good. I like it. But there's a couple things I think could have made it a little tighter. Also, I thought it's hard. I think that they didn't really take the character of Steve Rogers in any real meaningful ways. He was a little too much of a blank canvas still, which is fine, and it does well for the movie. And I think we let our opinions of Cap after what the Russos did with the character. So we kind of have our opinions of him then, and we can kind of like connect it to this movie.
That's fair.
But I think like taking those movies out of account, his character is a little bland and doesn't really have much of a personality of any kind. And I would have liked them to do something with him, like what the Russos did. And I'm actually going to talk more about this, my feelings of directors working with Chris Evans and the character, and how I don't think any of them do it as well as the Russos. We'll get into that later, though. You want to go into scores? Are you guys ready for that?
Yeah, I do. I do want to say one thing. I always forget Tommy Lee Jones is in this movie, and
he's great.
I love Tommy Lee Jones. I'm gonna give Captain America: The First Avenger a 7 out of 10. Ryan?
I'm also gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Alan?
Gosh, I talked about how much I like.
You said
the movie,
it was
and I'm
quote,
gonna be a little bit
great.
under you guys. Yeah, it's a 6.5. I think we're in the same boat though. It's not like
the number's kind of arbitrary, to be honest.
Yeah, it's based on our own personal thoughts on things. That's where I have it as a 6.5. I love the movie.
Excellent, Alan. You've been dodging me here.
Okay, I'm ready.
Give me your thoughts on Avengers.
Okay, I think that the Avengers, despite any flaws that it has, and it does have some, will always hold a special place in my heart. I think that this one was the first thing to really start understanding the Hulk. I think that the movie that best understands the Hulk is Thor Ragnarok, but we'll get to that next week. But like, I think that this was, and it really understood Banner, I think was really good. I'll get more. There's more than just him, but this is the first time that we see Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. So I think that that's probably one of the bigger things too. But this movie was completely unprecedented to start this whole cinematic universe phenomenon that we have today. And to do so well, it's awesome. It is fun. It is funny. It is epic. It has heart. I think that this movie is... You know, here's the thing. There are great movies in the MCU, but if someone says, I want to get into the MCU, what movie would you recommend I watch? It would probably be this one if I didn't say start from the beginning. If I didn't say, start from the beginning, go Iron Man. If I was like, here's something to hook you on it, I'd probably go with the first Avengers film.
Yeah, fantastic. Ryan, your brief thoughts on Avengers, the Avengers.
This movie is this is the biggest cliche to say, and I apologize for it. This movie is just really fun. It definitely one of the most excitable experiences of watching a movie. It's paced really well. The action sequences are really neat, especially towards the back end with like the fan service nerdgasm-esque action sequences. And it's not perfect. I don't think it's as good as a lot of people say it is, but I will recommend it to people, as I think Alan made a good point. And like, if somebody wanted to watch these movies but didn't want to watch all of them for whatever reason, or they're trying to catch up quick before Infinity War or Endgame, sorry, then this would probably be a good place to start. Yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, my brief thoughts are that I saw the Avengers about maybe twice. I saw it once in 2012 and then once after that. And I always thought that I didn't like it as much as a lot of other people. I always thought like, oh, yeah, Avengers is good, but whatever, you know. I rewatched it for this, and damn, I had a really great time. It is, I'm going to agree with you. It's just freaking fun. I mean, watching everyone work together in that final battle, despite how I don't think they're ever really in danger. I think that I really, really do enjoy seeing them all fight together. Loki is an excellent villain. And
you think so?
What?
You think so? We'll debate.
Oh, okay. You don't like? No.
We'll debate.
Let's do it.
I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, keep going with what you're saying.
I didn't have much more after Loki is an excellent villain.
So. Okay, so
it could just be my love of Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Also,
if you go on the concept that
I'm going to be in the middle.
If you go on the concept that they've since released, and it's been hinted at but never like outright said in the movie, that the scepter has enhanced his hatred, I guess,
aggression towards Thor. His
hatred towards Thor, and his perspective is shifted, then that's fine. And I think, okay, it's fine if you say that, and that's okay. I guess it's a little bit reasonable. I think his plan is just fucking stupid, and like if you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense at all.
That's fair.
It and then like the way they even explain it in the movie, it's like, oh, it's because he wants to be on a throne. He wants everyone to see that he did it. It's like, come on, that's such a bullshit reasoning. So I think his plan kind of sucks, and I think he's not true to his character. I think this is the worst. I love Loki as a character. This is the worst version of Loki, in my opinion, by far. It almost feels like he throws reason out the door for every decision he makes. And it's really frustrating because I think he's really well handled in the first Thor. Because my memory, like I said, I hadn't seen the original Thor in a while. My memory of it is like, oh, Loki wasn't really good until like they made him better and more sympathetic in the Dark World, and then in Ragnarok he's great. But he's actually really good in Thor 1. He's just off. I just think he's awful in this one. And I think he's by far the least likable part of this movie. Even though, like, if you shut your brain off and, like, he's fun because Tom Hiddleston's fun.
I think that's how I watched this movie, is, like, I kind of was just, like, turned my brain off. Because a lot of it doesn't make sense. I mean, it just...
Yeah, there's no real reason that Thanos would give an Infinity Stone to get one.
No, it doesn't make... but I think that is how I watched it, where I just kind of, like, turned it off, and I'm like, Tom Hiddleston has some funny lines, and he delivers things really well. Like, your reasons are 100%. I totally agree with everything you're saying on that, but I just, like, watched it, and I'm like, he's very fun, and there are really great scenes with him. So that's just kind of how I'm not, like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I end up, like I said, somewhere in between there, because I think that, well, I think Ryan is right when he says that this
I think
is probably
he's right.
the worst that Loki is. But I also, after reading that, and it's on Marvel's official website to say that Loki was his mind was being
I would have liked them to say
aggressive. Yeah, to be fair, you shouldn't have to read the website.
I think that knowing that, and then watching the movie, it is hinted at. I don't think that it's done well enough. I think it's similar to where, like, Zack Snyder, when he makes movies, and it's like, you're just supposed to get it. And it's like, I don't think it's clear enough at all. It's clear that the scepter does have, those capabilities. Yeah, because
that's when they're
you
arguing.
See it happen in that big argument scene between Hulk and all them. So it's clear that it has those things. But there's also moments like when Loki's not with the scepter, and he's still kind of acting like a dick. And it's like, how long does that hold? But, like, Loki does say some things, like, he tells Thor that he remembers Thor throwing him off the bridge, and it's like, that didn't happen. Like, Loki let go in Thor in the first Thor movie. So like there's definitely things that are like clouding him. When I first watched the movie, I just kind of A, brushed aside some of the lines, and B, where it was like, okay, so he just hates him and he's just kind of blinded by that revenge. Right. But it's in this, I can kind of see the staff angle, and that's why I still think it's fun. And I think that it's not. I don't think he's awful. Is where I think I'm at.
No, he's not awful. I don't think he's awful. I just think he's kind of a bad villain. Like,
okay.
He's not like. I mean, he's definitely by this point still like probably the best villain. I think. I mean, in Thor 1, he's I think the best villain to this point. If we're ranking villains to this point, Loki in Thor 1, I think would be the best villain.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I guess this would probably be up there with Obadiah in Iron Man 1. But I just thought like it was weird because I think the biggest thing for me was if I hadn't seen him in Thor 1 before rewatching this, then it would have been different. I think he's a really good character in Thor 1, and they betray it. It feels like almost entirely in this one. So and another thing. Now I guess we can get away from Loki. Is that cool?
Please, yeah, that's fine.
So I had just mentioned when we talked about Captain America that I think that one of my worst favorite things about this movie, and I'm not trying to talk all negatives, because I actually like this movie, is, and this is going forward in general, is I think Cap is really weird in this movie. He's fine. He just doesn't feel like Cap. I guess it's fine at this point also because no one really knew what Cap was going to be going forward. They were kind of just going off of the last Cap movie. The only thing I liked was when he actually took things into his own hands when Tony and Bruce were trying to look into see what S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets were. He kind of just went out and
like found the gun and whatnot.
Yeah. But otherwise, I just think, I don't know, I'll get more into this when we talk about Avengers 2, because I have a lot to say about that. But we'll get there when we get there.
All right. Excellent. Do you guys want to give our scores on the Avengers? Alan, would you like to go first?
Sure. So as I said before, I love this movie. I think that it's got flaws, but even still, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Alrighty, Ryan, your score for Avengers.
I complain about it most of the time, but I promise I actually really like this movie. When watching it, I had a blast watching it again. Super fun, definitely rewatchable. But I would give it a 7 out of 10. That's still a good score.
Yeah, 7 out of 10. Absolutely. And I think that this is definitely one of my favorite fun popcorn movies. I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. All right, let's move on to the final movie in the Iron Man trilogy, Iron Man 3. Who would like to go first for Iron Man 3? Ryan, do you want to go first?
Sure. So Iron Man 3 is another movie that when we had rewatched it, when I watched it the first time, I didn't love it much. And for whatever reason, I was really bothered by the Mandarin twist. That Trevor Slattery, played by Ben Kingsley, was an actor pretending to be the Mandarin. And for whatever reason, that really bothered me. But in time, I don't care. Like, I don't really have a huge connection to that character anyway. And I'm fine with the movies taking liberties and kind of going their own direction with different characters. So that's honestly totally fine with me. So I rewatched it and I actually enjoyed it a little more than I remember. And I actually thought the movie was actually a little bit of fun. There's a lot of problems with it, but I think the biggest positive I had with the movie was adding like really cool conditional action scenes, where they'd put Tony in these different scenarios.
Oh yeah.
Where he had to like, where it's like, oh, his blasters aren't working, or he has to jump from, in the end, he has to jump from suit to suit to continue the battle. Like, I thought that kind of stuff was very creative.
Oh, he's handcuffed.
And really cool ideas. Yeah, he had the fight sequence where he's handcuffed. I thought that was really cool from Shane Black as a director to kind of take into different directions, and it kind of led to the overall idea.
I was going to say
that Tony Stark is Iron Man, and Iron Man isn't just Iron Man in itself. Like, he is Iron Man. So, like, even though there's a huge gap in this movie where he's not like fully dressed as Iron Man, just like I said in Iron Man 2, it's still fun and still cool because they still put him in, they pace the action sequence as well, and he's still Iron Man. You know, it feels like more of that. So throughout the movie. Anyway, go ahead with it.
No, I was just gonna. You touched upon it, but I was gonna say one of my big things about this movie is that those action sequences, I think, really hit on the themes of the movie really well. And that's I was literally just gonna say that thing that you basically said already. I don't know if this is a hot take, and I feel like you guys might disagree with me here, but I and I'm doing like an anime pose right now. I really like Tony Stark and his relationship with the kid in Tennessee. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Actually, I don't think it's bad. I think you're probably right. I don't know that. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I think I like it. I think I like the thing with him and the kid in Tennessee. I don't think it's like. Yeah, I think I like it. It's just more to show him and go through his thing. Yeah, you know what? I'll say yeah. I hadn't put much thought into it, so
I don't know why. But I was watching it and I'm like, I actually really dig this. I think the kid.
I think it's supposed to ground.
Yeah, it did, and I think it did a great job of doing that because Tony's sort of going through a bunch of issues in this movie. He's got a lot of anxiety issues. He is what I'm assuming is I don't know if necessarily say it, but he has PTSD from New York and the Battle of New York, and I really enjoyed his conversations with the kids, sitting down and having that discussion. Alan, what are your quick thoughts on Iron Man 3? Because you didn't give us a little preface here, so.
Sure. So one thing I'm going to say, because I think that this is something I differ from Ryan a little bit more on. The reason that I have an issue with the Trevor Slattery thing, because I still think I dislike it quite a bit, is not because I have some sort of inherent like for the Mandarin as a character. I've tried reading Iron Man comics, and it's tough because his comics can be very dense with, with stuff that if you're going in for the first time, it can be a little bit tough. So, but I don't have this, inherent like for the Mandarin, and I know that was the thing that a lot of people had issues with. The problem that I have with the Trevor Slattery thing is that Ben Kingsley's Mandarin, his like scary, intimidating Mandarin, was actually like super awesome in my opinion. I actually was really invested and really was like, oh, this guy's dark, and the payoff on it being a joke is fine, and I actually think that it works and it's funny. The problem is that once he's gone, Aldrich Killian is just not that interesting by far.
Aldrich Killian is in the movie for so long, and I think one of the things with Mandarin was I remember when I first watched it, I agree with you. Like he had some really badass lines, and he's just kind of it seems like a cool villain, but like he's pretty paper thin otherwise. Like there's nothing to him.
Yeah. I was excited to see more.
And the point of the movie was like him creating his own demons. And like he even says it right in the beginning. He's like, "See what I did there? I just created demons, and I didn't even know it." And I think that was the whole point.
Sure,
was him dealing with his own personal demons from mistakes he made in the past and having to confront the past. It was the whole point. And the Mandarin was just like a looming threat that was, played off as a joke, but also narratively built towards the twist with Killian's character in general. I mean, we didn't know Killian was working with him, but the fact that Killian is the Mandarin. He even says it, like, I'm the Mandarin. Like he's basically the Mandarin of the movie.
Yeah.
And then there's the one-off.
Like I said, I just think that unfortunately, he just wasn't as interesting, and I was really interested in this character. I think a lot for the secretiveness of it. Yeah, because he doesn't have a lot of depth, but I think that I think he's purposely not having a lot of depth, and that there could have been. I think that there was perceived depth, and until we're told that he's nothing, I think that we are led to believe that there's something there and that there's going to be something. I'm not saying that the whole movie changes if he's actually not an actor, but that's my point, is that I think that it just, that part of the movie kind of like is funny and it's fun and it does narratively make sense with the rest of the movie. But for me, it makes it less interesting inherently. Like the villain becomes inherently less interesting for me. Well, to be fair, actually, I think it does make Aldrich Killian more interesting than he was when he was working with the Mandarin. But still, he's less interesting than I had perceived the Mandarin to be before we found out about it. So I don't know how much that makes sense. And that was just the one thing that I had said on the movie. I still want to say I like this movie a lot more than I thought I would. I thought that this movie was going to be bad. I remembered not liking it. And I remembered not liking it at a time that I was like, Marvel could do no wrong in my head when I was watching before that. So I remembered still not liking it. And I enjoyed it.
Is there anything else anybody wants to say, or anything else anybody wants to say about Iron Man 3? Or should we move on to scores?
I'm good with scores.
I'm good with scores. I think we kind of made our point. Do you have? I guess yeah.
Okay, excellent. I'm
happy they put a lot of focus on the Pepper and Tony relationship. Sorry. The last thing I wanted to add. Sorry.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to give Iron Man 3 a 6.5 out of 10. Ryan?
I'm gonna give this a 5.5 out of 10, just like how I gave Thor. I enjoyed it.
Alan?
I didn't even get into the negatives this time around, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, same thing for me. Same thing
I'm
for
not
me.
going to, but it's fine.
Same thing for me. 5.5 out of 10. I still like it. I think it's a good movie. I'd still like. I have no problem going back and watching it again.
Okay. Well, a movie I probably won't watch again is our next movie that we'll be discussing, and that is Thor: The Dark World, the second movie in the Thor trilogy. Alan, what are your initial thoughts on Thor: The Dark World?
Thor: The Dark World. Yeah, I think that this movie it starts off with something that's just to me just laughably bad, where it's just like, at first there was darkness, and with that the dark elves. And knowing what I know, it's just like that's just so dumb. like knowing the movie, it just feels so dumb. It's the dark elves are dumb. Malekith's bad. Jane Foster's bad. Loki to me is actually one of the only things that I like in this. I dislike what they do with Selvig. I don't think he was as we didn't talk about this much. I don't think he was as bad as you guys had said in Thor. And I think that when they decided to make him a comic relief, when they already have a bad comic relief character, and they're just kind of like, he's crazy, but there's like nothing inherently crazy about him other than he doesn't like wearing clothing, which I get, but like, I don't know. To me, I really don't like this movie. This was one where Ryan was saying in Iron Man 2, like he was like, I almost fell asleep. This was one I was just like actively like drudging through. This one's tough for me. I didn't like this one a lot. I guess that we'll leave it at that for brief thoughts.
Yeah, I don't care about this movie at all. I'm gonna agree with you on that. I had to force myself to watch this movie. I even thought about like fast forwarding. I was really bored. I like the stuff with Loki. And I don't know. I was gonna say Odin, but I don't even like that. There's a really great.
Odin's a dick.
Odin's a dick. There's a really great scene.
But Odin's supposed to be
Well,
a
that is
dick.
true.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of his role in this movie. I just was saying it.
There's a really great scene involving Loki and his mother's death. That's probably my favorite
Yeah.
scene in the whole movie.
Are you talking about the one where he's putting up the
Yes,
illusion?
yeah.
And then Thor's like, no more illusions, and he's just sitting there. I love
that as well. Other than that, I hate Malekith. And I remember at the time I had just watched the first season of Doctor Who, and I was really excited for Christopher Eccleston to be in the MCU. And oh boy, Malekith is just such a bad, boring character with just paper thin anything. I can't stand him. Ryan, what is your thoughts on Thor: The Dark World?
So my opinion of the movie, I don't think the movie, I mean, I would definitely say the movie is like pretty soulless, I guess it would be a good way of putting it. I don't hate it as much as you guys, but I have a lot of problems with it. I think one of my biggest problems is Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and I felt it a little bit in the last movie, but this one especially. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's Chris Hemsworth, because going forward, spoiler alert, when we talk about Thor Ragnarok, I think he's fucking awesome in that movie.
I think he's better in the Avengers movies.
And better, yeah, and he's better. He's definitely better in the Avengers
make him more
movies.
self-aware.
In this movie, I think the directors working with Chris Hemsworth just don't understand what they want to do with, for one, the character of Thor, and for two, what to do with Chris Hemsworth as an actor. It's like they don't really get exactly what they want to do with him. They kind of make him just this bland nothing character, and this movie feels it way more than the last Thor movie. He doesn't have chemistry with anybody. He has no chemistry with Jane Foster, and he Natalie Portman playing Jane Foster, and this is going to be a hot take. I think he has no chemistry with Tom Hiddleston in this movie as Loki. Unfortunately, when I remembered watching this movie, I remembered that's the one thing that really works: Thor and Loki's relationship with one another. And I don't get me wrong, I think Loki works. I think they do an awesome job, and they get back to Thor, his motivations and what his how he feels he's the rightful king. He still has pride for his home and for his family, but he also has spite. And I think that stuff is handled well, and especially when they talk about the relationship with his mother and how he feels about his father. The kind of tough love relationship he has with his father, and how his mother has always kind of been there to nurture. So I thought they did an excellent job with that. But back to kind of what I was saying, Chris Hemsworth I just think is so bad in this movie. I feel nothing for his character. And the biggest problem, like I said, is just his relationship with all the other characters. Like right in the beginning, they try to set up, I don't know, I guess a love triangle situation with him and Sif, and they kind of abandon that really quick. That was really weird. I don't know how I felt about that. That was more about like trying to show how much he loves Jane Foster, which again, like I said, we rewatched Thor 1 and it was like, oh, this is totally fine. It wasn't as bad as I remember because it was infatuation, but they spent the same amount of time with each other. And in this movie, he's talking about like, oh, I can't live without her. It's like, you fucking knew her for 2 days. You kidding me? That's crazy.
Also, he didn't even feel like going there during when he got back to Earth. I know he had a lot to do, but still. But
yeah,
like,
I don't buy
and then you
it.
get into all the other. You get into all the other characters, like all the side characters in general, and it's just like, blech. It's just boring to push through, as you guys were saying. The movie's like fine. It's just, I don't think it's like a horribly made movie altogether. I just think it's just so lacking.
I don't think it's that horribly made either. Just, I mean, once you see my score, you'll realize. I mean, like, it's not. I'm not sitting here saying it's like an absolute piece of shit. I just don't care about any of the characters. One thing I think is funny is they keep trying to make the Warriors 3 a thing. The Warriors 3 is just not going to be a thing, guys. Like,
they have like one scene. Well, they're definitely not now. They're dead now.
Yeah, but no one gave a shit when they died. Like,
Sif's still alive, and I'm pretty sure she's still not going to be in Endgame.
Pretty sure
she was off Asgard when everyone got killed. But then Asgard was destroyed and they left and she wasn't with them. I don't think that they have any plans for Sif.
Yeah. No,
Sorry.
that's fine.
No, I don't think so either.
One thing I did enjoy and I noticed, I actually really like some of the character designs for the Dark Elves, and I thought the makeup and hairstyling was really nice as well.
Altogether, yeah. I love like the look, and also it's just the look of Thor and Loki.
Yeah, I kept noticing,
like, in the setting is pretty cool. The one thing like I thought was a little
this is a really quick thing. I kept noticing the Dark Elves braid work for some reason, and I was like really impressed by the way their hair was made up. So that's just one quick thing.
Yeah, I loved like the setting as well. I liked the way everything looked overall, and kind of like how they put together. The one thing I thought was a little goofy. Oh, there's a lot of goofy shit in this movie. I just remembered and I thought it was really funny. The prisons were stupid.
Oh yeah.
Like if I don't know how power works there, but if there was like a power outage of any kind, they're all free.
And also,
just have
how
bars
fucking
and
easily,
those.
and the funniest thing for me, how fucking easily it was to escape for that guy. Like, he has the power of darkness. He just punches the wall and it just goes out.
That's what I was going to say. Like, if you just punch
metal bars would have done better.
Like, I guess you'll get out. I don't. But yeah.
Like, I thought that was so fucking silly. Like,
they made a weapon out of the heart of a dying star, but they can't make iron bars. I mean, presumably they can't just make all their bars out of the heart of a dying star.
I guess that's true.
You can get out of the prison if you're worthy, which I guess like would be a pretty good prison system. I don't know.
One thing
Maybe
I
not,
noticed
is
one thing I noticed rewatching is there there seems to be a villain that is the same race as Korg in this movie.
Yeah, it's in the comics. I can't remember.
Is it? Okay.
I don't remember what they're called. I don't remember what they're called either. They talk about it in the Planet Hulk book, too, and I can't remember it.
But anyway, I just noticed that. So, what are our scores for Thor: The Dark World? Alan, start us off with the score.
Well, real quick, I feel like it's sort of important that we mention. This is the last time that we get to see Darcy. What a fucking character, guys!
Meow meow.
From amazing lines like meow meow. And oh gosh, how she tried to teach Jane to change her ringtone, or that time that she interrupted that date.
We forgot to mention how cringy the fucking comedy in this movie
bad.
This is the worst comedy in any Marvel movie.
And then that
Not
time
funny
that
one
she
time.
kisses that intern, because she's an intern and she will be
I'm
sorely
not dying
missed.
for 6 college credits, Alan.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like okay, we know that Thor and Jane aren't together anymore after Thor Ragnarok. But please bring Darcy back.
And here's
guys.
what I'm worried about. Did she get got with the snap? Because that's
oh
honestly,
god, they didn't even
worries
tell
me.
us.
Oh.
She doesn't have a poster.
Oh my god. they're gonna keep us in the dark on this, and they'll keep us in the dark world on this one.
Her help as a political science major in this scientific thing with an intern that knows more than her, she would be so helpful.
Look at you, still muscly and everything. Meow meow.
Oh hell
meow
yeah!
Meow.
Hell yeah, brother.
She will be sorely missed.
I want a Darcy
Let's hope
movie.
that whatever happens in Endgame, she remains snapped out.
Fuck that. Fuck that. Disney Plus, give me a Darcy TV show. That's all I fucking want.
2 Darcy intern girls.
Yeah. So Alan, your score.
Okay, so sorry, scores. It's a 3 out of 10. It's really fucking bad. I don't like it. And that's like the opposite of how I did my Incredible Hulk one.
Same score.
I like this one worse than Incredible Hulk with the same score.
I like this a little more than the Incredible Hulk. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10.
This movie is better than the Incredible
Fuck
Hulk.
you.
I give it a 4 out of 10, but it also is not good.
I would take the
There are
taxi
some
scene over
redeemable
Kat Dennings.
qualities about this movie, like Loki.
That's
And
the first 30 minutes of
I
the
would
Incredible Hulk, my
honestly-
friend.
yeah, but that movie is laughably bad. But I'd rather
That taxi
rewatch
scene
Incredible
alone.
Hulk. I'd rather rewatch
If I'm
Incredible
being honest,
Hulk,
Alan,
but Thor is a
I
little
think
bit
I'd rather
better.
have the taxi scene than listening to Darcy say meow meow. I'm just gonna be honest. All right, boys. Our next movie is the second movie in the Captain America trilogy, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Ryan, what are your brief thoughts on Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
All right. I want to talk a lot about this movie, but I'm going to start off with my
Okay.
initial thoughts, and I'll come back. It'll come back to me later. So this was always my favorite MCU movie, and I actually haven't seen it in a couple years. I don't rewatch the Marvel movies like you. I think you guys rewatch them much more often. I don't rewatch them all that often. I kind of watch and they stick with me. But I've watched this one a few times. I just haven't seen it since I bought it like 2.5 years ago or 2 years. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was. But I love this movie. It's kind of I love like the like spy thriller angle that this movie takes. I think it does a really excellent job with it. This is by far Sam Jackson's best interpretation, like best time playing Nick Fury. I couldn't speak that the way I wanted to. Nick Fury is so fucking cool in this movie.
He's so badass.
He has so many fucking badass lines, and there's some really good writing in here. Like I love when he goes on his story about his grandfather with the gun. I don't remember,
The elevator. Well, he was
22 Magnum.
22
Yeah, I know
Magnum.
it's in the elevator. I don't remember what
What is it?
Yeah.
the 22 Magnum. Yeah. So when he's talking about that, and he goes through that whole story, and then it's revealed what their project. What is it? Project what?
Insight?
Insight.
Insight. Thank you. And he shows that he's
Would have not remembered
the
that.
way that connects with the story. That's like really
Yeah.
good writing. And I love like basically the whole like thing that kind of gets the movie moving. I love how the movie starts right after Nick Fury gets presumably killed. That's kind of where the conflict begins, especially with Captain America. For one, it gives us the mystery of we don't know who did what. So we are left in the dark as well as Captain America, which is awesome. We don't know who to trust. And also I love how that's kind of the going forward, the main conflict. He was there when it happened. So he's kind of caught in this kind of weird middle ground where Nick Fury told him not to trust anybody, but he was there when Nick Fury was killed. So when S.H.I.E.L.D. takes him in, and there's a lot of paranoia because S.H.I.E.L.D. knows everything, and they hinted that throughout the entire movie. So he goes to talk to Robert Redford's character. I can't remember the name of his character.
Pierce.
Pierce. Oh, Alexander Pierce. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really bad with names.
Because I always want to say Guy Pearce played him, even though Guy Pearce was nothing like that. Guy Pearce plays
the Mandarin.
He plays Aldrich Killian.
Yeah, aka the Mandarin. No, but I love like that circumstance. Like because of that, he has to go. Like, there's now reason to think that Captain America is a threat, or that he knows more information. So that's kind of where the conflict kind of begins. And I think they did an excellent job of that. The characters are really well handled. I really love what they do with Captain America in general. This makes him a much better character. There's a lot like Thor, Alan Taylor, director of Thor: The Dark World, and Kenneth Branagh, director of Thor 2011. Watch this movie to see how to handle side characters, because this movie does it so fucking well.
Yeah.
all the side characters are memorable in some
To be
way.
fair, there's also just great performances that also help. But no,
but
they
it's
write
not just
them well.
performances can only do so much.
Yeah.
They're really well handled. They balance the characters really well, and they all serve their purpose really well. And the pacing of the movie is super good. That's what I have to say for now, but I'm going to talk a little bit later.
I just want to say, like, I feel like if Josh Dallas as Fandral got as much screen time as, like, even with good writing, I don't think he's going to pull off Anthony Mackie's performance as Sam Wilson's Falcon.
Yeah, we'll never know.
We never will. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to give yours, Zach, or do you want me to give mine?
Please.
Okay, we were on Winter Soldier. This is, Ryan had mentioned that this is the best of Nick Fury. I think at the time, for the time of this movie coming out, this is also the best that we'd gotten of Captain America, the best that we'd gotten at Black Widow. It's the best we've gotten of Bucky, but that's not really saying much. It's the best that no, I guess that would be it. You know, it's the best of those things. Also so I think in general, also Sam Wilson is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, like everyone puts out a great performance. It's directed well. It's just awesome. That Peggy Carter scene, that's in this one, right? Yeah, it was actually done by Joss Whedon for Avengers. Yeah, it was supposed to be in Avengers, and then it was actually put in this movie. But it's amazing, and I almost cry every time when she forgets him in the middle of that conversation.
She has Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Oh my God,
that's a great writing as well, because like that conversation. We see him talking and you assume like, oh, like, you know, she remembers him and they come back all the time. And then she forgets him and you realize every time he comes back, they have this same conversation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
They start it over every single time, and how like careful he is when he talks to her
gets
too.
Like me, like,
and how heartbroken he is
every fucking time. And it's like, it makes me like love, it makes me love Chris Evans, Steve Rogers more. It makes me love Peggy Carter more. This movie is really fucking good. Also, we get Toby Jones' Arnim Zola back, and I think he's just fucking delectable, and I love his character.
I just want to eat Toby Jones' Arnim Zola up.
So
I love him. He disagrees with me. That's like Captain America First Avenger.
You are out of time.
Yeah, but I love this. One thing that I think that is funny about this, and it happens in a lot of movies, and I just want to bring it up because I think it's dumb, because it happens in every movie, and it's fine, but it's dumb, is that why does Bucky wear that mask for, I don't know, what is it, 70 years of killing people, and then once Captain America knows who he is, he just stops wearing it? I mean, that's like whatever. It's so that because we already know and the audience knows, and it happens in so many movies. Like Kylo Ren, once we saw his face, they're like, we don't have to use this mask anymore. Now I guess they're bringing it back, but like I just think it's funny. Same thing with Red Skull. I think the Red Skull one's funny in the first Avenger because he takes off his human skin that he's been wearing the entire movie and then
throws it into like the
fire. It's like, why did he wear that this entire time? Reveal to us what he looked like, and then was like, nah. Never mind. I don't know. I just think it's funny when movies do that. This movie's great though, and Arnim Zola is great. Yum yum yum.
Delicioso.
Give me more Arnim Zola.
Zach, what are your thoughts?
I love Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It is probably the Marvel movie that I've seen the most, and it was similar to Ryan, my go-to answer for like, hey, what's your favorite MCU movie? I'd say, oh, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, hands down. I think that the tension is handled really well, and I also think that the movie is really well paced. Like, I feel like there's an action sequence, and then like I just think the movie moves at a really, really great clip. One thing I absolutely love is the introduction sequence to Sam Wilson's Falcon. When you guys have seen the movie, but when Cap's running and he keeps saying on your left, and they're tied back to that at the end of the movie. I think
this movie does that a lot really well.
Yes, it does. But I think Falcon is great, and I love when Cap shows up at the VA as well, because thematically that speaks a lot to what Cap's going through in the movie. Ryan, you said that you have a lot of thoughts on this movie. Let's get into those thoughts and comment on that.
Sure. Okay. Whoops. Just hit my computer on accident. Okay. So I said in the beginning that this was always the go-to movie that I said was my favorite, and I kind of was untouchable for a little bit. I tried rewatching all these movies with an open mind and trying to just kind of like be fair to each movie when I reviewed them. This movie has a lot of fucking stupid shit.
It does have some stupid shit.
This movie is not as good as I remembered. I still love this movie, but it's not my favorite movie anymore, and I'll just say that right off the bat.
It's not mine
okay.
anymore.
Okay.
I always had a different one.
So some of the problems that I have with this movie are, for one, I'll start with this. The action is bad. This was one of the movies where when a long time ago when I'd seen it and I remember even talking about it, I was like, this is the best like fight choreography. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I think the fight choreography is great. The camera work is fucking shoddy as hell. It's so shaky. I can almost not follow it. And the cutting is so frequent that it's almost, I can't see what's going on. And I could tell behind all the shaky, shoddy camera work and the weird cuts, there's actually some really cool fight choreography going on underneath. This isn't the entire movie, but there's a lot of fights. Like for one, like when Cap is fighting Bucky, that one comes to mind. Like I can't see what the fuck is going on. It's like melting my brain. And I love, like, I can see like they're doing cool shit with the knife, like drops the knife like behind the fucking like shield and shit, and they're like catching it, like it's cool. And there's a lot of cool stuff, but it's like really hard to follow, and that was really disappointing to me compared to a movie where like Iron Man 3, which I think has like fucking like amazing action. And I never, like, before this rewatch, I never would have thought that I would say that. That's one thing that really disappointed me in this movie. Another thing that this movie, while I think has great writing and great pacing, also has really fucking lazy writing at times. And I'll give you a few examples. I have actually a few in mind. And I talked to Alan about this beforehand because we were talking about the movies. So the first one that comes to mind is, and I'll talk about these, and you guys jump in if add your thoughts to this. So I don't have to talk like in my okay. So the first one that comes to mind is in, so Sam Jackson.
I 100% agree with
Nick
this one.
Fury is driving away and he's getting chased down. He gets past everyone's fucking cool action sequence. Really cool. High tense action, cool stuff. And then the Winter Soldier comes in. His entrance is awesome. He comes in, he knocks the car over, walks slowly over to him, whatever. I mean, he's got like a wounded old man stuck in a car. What could he do? He pulls out a little lighter laser
cuts
torch
to the ground
and cuts a hole in the street and falls through.
Whatever.
Okay, whatever. That's that's
shield tech.
I guess we could pretend that works. It's shield tech, whatever. That's fine. Why the fuck didn't Bucky jump in after him?
There's no reason for him to
I couldn't imagine.
Can
you imagine him going to his superiors and saying, "Yeah, I couldn't find him." And they go like, "Let's go to the scene." There's a hole in the ground. What happened?
I walked.
He went in the hole. He went into the hole. I couldn't go in. He's a fucking wounded old man. Fell into a hole. Who knows how deep it is? It couldn't be either one. It's not that deep to begin with, so we could definitely just jump in and chase him. Or two, like he fell a big distance and he died, and you can confirm the kill. What the fuck was that? It was horrible. Whatever. Ignore it. Next scene. Whatever. We're moving on. I can shut my brain off to it. Whatever. Later on, we're doing the awesome thing with Steve, and so we have Steve and Natasha. They're going to find Zola, and they're talking to him. Zola's giving his whole plan away, which is a little cliche. Whatever, it's fine.
He's stalling. He gives that
exactly. He reveals that he's stalling. I'm like, oh, that's okay.
I actually had that
fine.
thought.
It's actually fine. It's an exposition dump. Whatever, but he's stalling, so it's. Okay,
I was gonna say while watching it, I had that thought. I'm like, this is just an exposition dump, and then I'm like, okay, he justified it there. I can let it go when he says I'm stalling. I'm like, I can let that go.
I love that he had a little presentation ready for them too. That was great.
Well, to be fair, he might be able to pull that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. Okay, so I've been stalling, and this place is gonna explode. You are out of time. Sick. We're getting ready for gearing up for a really cool action sequence of them somehow being able to escape out of the sticky situation. No, let's just crawl in a hole in the ground. Let's just crawl in there. And then when they blow it up and we are fine, no one's going to look for us or confirm the kill.
I think that they're looking, but still, I don't know how they got away.
No, like they show 3 helicopters flying over, and then Steve just walks away with her in her arms.
And they get all the way from New Jersey back to Washington. and they just go to Sam's crib.
And vehicles weren't traced or anything. They weren't.
What the fuck was that? What? And I got one more for you guys. I know we're running late, but I got one more for you guys. So they fight Winter Soldier. Things are, he discovers who Bucky is. That's Bucky, and he's blown away. And they get surrounded, and they're about to kill them. And then I forget what his name is. The one Shield Hydra agent is like, no, we're not doing it here. We're gonna take them somewhere else. Makes sense.
Rumlow.
That's a good idea.
Rumlow.
Because they're still trying to maintain their image. Rumlow, thank you. Crossbones. They're trying to maintain their image. So we're going to take them in a van, and we're going to take them to under some bridge and just kind of off them, which makes sense. That's fine. They're talking for a little bit. Black Widow's bleeding out. She's going to die. And then, Maria Hill's here. She kicks the other person. She somehow got in there.
I mean, seems
a little weird,
agent,
a little
so
sketchy that she was able to sneak into
she's-
this exact situation. Is a little sketchy and weird without anybody realizing it. But a
I'll
Shield
allow it, yeah.
will accept it. I'll allow it. But then
This is weird. No, I agree. I
problem
100%
that
agree
is
with you on
solved
this, by the way.
so often in this movie, let's just cut a fucking hole in the ground. Just fall through the hole.
The weird
No
part
one
is they end up
notices.
in another fucking van
No
like
one
that. Like,
notices.
it's like so. It's just like
No one fucking notices. They just
hole,
and also
the
they
plot
put a
hole in the
They put
ground.
a hole in the ground of this moving fucking van. They all bleeding out. Black Widow is able to crawl through the bottom of a moving van on presumably the highway because they're under in an underpass, unless they did it like not far from there, which they could find them and confirm the kill because
follow
of the
the
blood.
blood trail.
What the fuck? But I went on a long streak there because that was just something when I was watching, I was really starting to get disappointed about some of these things that I didn't remember. If you shut your brain off to some of the weird, really bad writing conveniences and the rest is awesome. I just wish they were like a little smarter about those sequences instead of just fucking dig a hole in the ground forehead. Like, I don't know. Sorry, I went on a huge tangent there. I watched the movie and I was so mad. Not mad because I love
leave
it.
it
I
at
still
that
had
and go
fun.
to scores, though, right?
I don't want to leave a bad taste.
One
I still
thing-
love this movie. This movie's great. A lot of fun. It's just not. There's problems.
Yeah.
There's real
I
problems.
totally
with
agree.
it.
I saw a behind the scenes video of the making of that fight scene with Bucky where they do the cool knife flips and stuff like that. And the choreography is amazing. But like all that shaky cam and like them trying to do Paul Greengrass, born kind of shit is like, I get what they're doing, but and don't get me wrong, there's also some really good action where there's like, it's some like longer shots where things are all like, I like a lot of the action on the boat in the beginning. And it's like, it's
a little
it's
better
not like
there for
incredible, but it's a little sad when you can see that there's really good fight choreography and they don't let it actually shine. So Ryan, what's your score for Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
I just shit on it for a while there. I still love this movie, and I think it's incredible. And that's why I also wanted to start with the positives and then end with kind of my negatives. I want to talk about like the more important stuff because all that other stuff is kind of nitpicky. So with that, I'll give you my score 8 out of 10, which is like really good. I have the same score for Iron Man.
Alan?
Okay, I gave this one a little bit higher than Iron Man. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
I also gave this one an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, moving on to the next movie in the MCU is Guardians of the Galaxy. Alan, lead us off here with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy is one that I think before rewatching it this week had... Okay, actually, you know what? Let's take it back to the movies. When this movie was coming out, I was also coming off of Thor: The Dark World. It wasn't like directly after, but I remembered seeing Thor: The Dark World, and I'll bring you back to right after watching Thor: The Dark World. I watched it with Ryan. We got out of the theater, and I said that movie was bad, and that post-credit scene, which is a teaser for Guardians, fucking sucked. And I think Guardians is gonna suck. And I think not only is Guardians going to suck, but because it sucks, it's gonna ruin the MCU, and that this one movie that's going to suck so bad is going to ruin the MCU. I was very naive at the time. I thought that one bad movie that was so bad could completely topple it. Then we get to this movie and it is fucking amazing. when Guardians, when I got to see it, eventually, it is so fucking good. It's so funny. It has great heart. It's honestly, it's one of the best, actually, in this first part of the thing. It's my favorite of the group of movies that we saw, this first half of the MCU that we watched. I think it's fucking amazing. I think it's hilarious. I think that I am in love with these characters. And as we get further, I think that partly, I think that I didn't expect to love it again as much as I did because I'm not a big fan of Guardians 2. But with this movie, it's fucking amazing, and I'm happy I got the chance to go back and watch it.
Guardians is my favorite movie in this first batch, but I had always said it was Captain America: The Winter Soldier until I did this rewatch. Guardians is just so amazingly consistent, and I get so attached to these characters. James Gunn did such an amazing job of crafting what I think is now the standard for sort of the space in the Marvel movies. I'm talking like literal space, like outer space.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I realized that could have been a little weird. Yeah,
no, I know what you mean.
How it's bright and vibrant and full of life, and how space before this had sort of mimicked the way that we view space in a lot, not how everyone views space in the real world, but how a lot of people view space in the real world as dark, desolate, and empty. And so I think that that's such an interesting, and I'm not going to say tonal shift because we didn't get much space before this, but it's a different shift for us. And it's certainly different to the way that Thor does space. I also think that we're going to touch upon this obviously, but the music is so great in this movie, and it's so important to the themes of the movie. Everyone does a great job. And Ryan, what are your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy?
This is, and I'm going to sound like a cliche here because it's literally what you guys just said. Like we're all repeating ourselves. This is my favorite of this batch, this movie. Watching some of these other movies, it can be very hit or miss with the comedy. Mm-hmm. And then like with Thor: The Dark World, it's a huge miss. Where a lot of these movies will kind of throw like a million jokes at you, and like some of them will stick, some of them will be bad. And then Thor: The Dark World is all of them are cringy. This one does like all of the jokes are quality. It's really like a case of like quality over quantity, because like I think like rewatching this movie, because this is the movie I've actually rewatched more than any other Marvel movie. I laugh every time at like a variety of different jokes. This movie does comedy like so well, and that's not the only thing that's great about the movie. Like the comedy is such a standout for me, but the movie is shot so beautifully. I love the look and like the style of James Gunn for this movie. It is great. It is the most original looking movie of all the movies, in my opinion. I didn't even talk about that with all the others, because that's something I talk about when I talk about movies in general. Like Avengers 1, I think looks horrible. I love that movie, but like the shot composition is objectively bad.
Yeah, the lighting is also sort of laughable at times as well.
yeah, that's part of the composition. And talking about like going into even like Captain America, like I thought like it didn't look that great. It looked fine in some ways, but it almost looked like a TV show in others. This one, like I mean, Thor: The Dark World actually I thought had some pretty decent composition overall. But that's because Alan Taylor, I guess that's all he was really good for. This one is like, I love the shot choices. I love like the opening shot when we get that opening sequence with not the opening sequence, because the opening sequence was with his mom, as a kid, but the title sequence. Him just literally, it's not like a cool action sequence. It's literally just him dancing. And it's so fucking cool.
And it
the
really
shot
brings you into his character.
The show is like the Galaxy, the Guardians of the Galaxy title. And like the way it's all kind of edited to the music, and I love that.
I know, right?
I know. I just have it in my head. The movie is just so perfectly. I'm saying this a lot about some of these other movies, and I said it about like Avengers. This movie, I think, is the best paced of any Marvel movie. Every action sequence hits the beats perfectly. It's great, and it's always exciting, and it never loses any steam throughout the entire movie. It always has a very steady pace throughout, and it's ramping, and it ramps it up as it goes along, and it stays true to what the director the characters always stay true to themselves as well in the best way, which means that the characters work really well off of each other, and it makes you care about the characters. This movie just does so much right. I've been talking for a little while, so I'll let you guys jump in a little bit. But yeah, I obviously I love this movie.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much to add. I think everything you touched upon is really accurate. Peter is so great. Like, yeah. I care so much about his character, with his backstory with his mother. He's also hilarious, and the chemistry he has with all of the other Guardians is incredible as well. You know that it's saying this is weird because we end up caring about a lot of different things in animated movies. So saying something like this sort of feels strange, but the movie, the James Gunn does such a good job of making me care for like a tree and a raccoon, like in this world as well. Because
and who knew Dave Bautista could act?
Well, that's that's true. But I'm saying
that's just good directing, getting what you need out of the actor too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Groot and Rocket are also written so well, especially a character like Groot, where he just says the same thing over and over again. Like, I bought Groot's character motivations, I bought his arc as well, and like I just think that the characters are really the big crowning jewel of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's just why I keep coming back. By the way, this is my mom's favorite movie, I think, ever. She has watched Guardians of the Galaxy like hundreds of times. She loves this fucking movie. Like,
there's one more thing also that I think I'd like to add. This movie, obviously, people remember its soundtrack is like is amazing. Its score is also pretty good. I remember listening to it and I was like, oh shoot, like this is actually pretty good. Like it has that same sort of like Avengers-y feel, but it's the Guardians, and I actually really like the score of this movie too. I remember I was at one point when they're doing the prison break, and when they finally get done with it and they're standing in the doorway.
Oh, they had
they have like fanfare sort of. I really, really like. I don't know. I like the score of this movie too. Another thing that I wanted to say is that I've been on record for a while. I was going to
ask you about this.
I've been on record for a while as saying Lee Pace is bad and Ronan the Accuser is a really bad character. I'm completely off that now. I actually think he's perfect for what this movie wants, and I think that a character with a lot more depth, which I actually think he has a substantial amount, but a character with a lot more depth would actually probably take away from this movie. I think that he's exactly what this movie needs, and I'm sold on him as the villain of this movie.
Yeah, and I think again, like we said this about Captain America, Winter Soldier, but like, and how other movies have failed at this. The side characters in general of this movie are just excellent. All of them are memorable in their own way. So much so, even the character, oh god, what's his name? Let me look it up to make sure. Hold on. Oh, I don't remember his name.
Denorian Day? Who are you talking about?
No, he's the character in the beginning that asks Star-Lord who he is. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Korath.
Korath.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
even his character that has very little, like he's just in the first scene, he's in the fight at the end, is still memorable enough that he gets a cameo, and he's part of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, all the characters have like their moments to shine to an extent, and they're really interesting. And like I said before, this movie's fucking hilarious, and I love quoting it. That was my favorite knife. It really does. It's so funny, and the comedic timing is so good.
I laugh every time. I know it's coming.
My reflexes are too fast.
So there are multiple times that he makes metaphors and similes in the movie. I want to point that out. He says he thinks of Sakarans like paper people. That's a simile.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
He breaks the rules.
I think a lot of it is like ad lib and ideas as they go along, because I think this is again like the director knowing how to handle the actor. He saw what he had. Like, say we will about Bautista, he's not like the most talented actor of all time, and I think he would admit that even as well. But James Gunn does such an excellent job of just working with him and getting the best out of him, and knowing what his strengths are, and finding out that he actually is a pretty decent actor.
Yeah, he's not.
And if you put him in the right circumstances, he can shine. And that's exactly what I think James Gunn did, and what Dave Bautista was able to do.
And damn, isn't he having a fucking career, dude? Now, like,
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So, all right.
Also, why is Gamora? That's later.
All right, excellent. So let's get our scores for Guardians of the Galaxy. Alan, what is your score for Guardians of the Galaxy?
At this point, and I don't even know, it might even be, after I rewatch all of it, it might be the top of all. This is the best that Marvel has given in the first half of their films. Guardians of the Galaxy is a 9 out of 10.
Alrighty, Ryan?
I also feel like so far is the best movie they've made so far. I loved it. I'm going to be an 8.5 out of 10.
And I'm going to give Guardians of the Galaxy a 9 out of 10. All right, boys, we're moving on to the last movie we had to watch for this first part of
Made it sound so sad.
It is sad, but now we have a whole bunch of other movies to rewatch anyway, so it's fine. Okay, so the last movie here is Avengers Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie. Ryan, give me your brief thoughts on Avengers Age of Ultron.
I think the first thought that comes to my mind after seeing it, it's kind of a vague, I don't want to say vague, I don't know. The movie, I think, this isn't even the major complaint I have about the movie. I'm just going to say it's the first thing that came to my head. The movie's way too quippy.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that characters, kind of seem to act out of character sometimes because of the quips.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and again, it kind of comes as I was saying with, I literally just said with Guardians of the Galaxy of quality over quantity. This movie is going really quality over quantity. This one, I think, really is going for the quantity. It's just throwing shit at you constantly. Some of it works. Some of it's kind of funny. Other times it's like, give me a fucking break. It's like not even trying to be funny. It's just like, they're like, yeah, they're bros and they're hanging out. And it's like, okay, I fucking get it. Like, do we really have to hear another fucking language joke? It was hardly funny the first time. Can we stop with that, please? And like all this shit, it's like,
I don't mind the language joke.
Like it was like, but do we need to hear it 4 times? I understand. It's like, oh, it's like a callback. See, like it's supposed to be like, oh, when you're with your friends, you give your friend a hard time and you keep doing it and it doesn't go away and they keep doing it. Like I get it, but it's like, oh my god, give me a fucking break.
Oh, language.
Damn it, Alan.
But
thanks.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I'll let you guys talk and we'll get into it. I don't hate this movie though. Actually, if we're done general thoughts, I actually liked it better this time around than I did the first time I watched it. It's actually not that bad. It's kind of good.
Alan, Avengers Age of Ultron. What are your initial thoughts?
Hawkeye sure gets a lot of time in this one, and it's actually much better than you'd think it would be. Hawkeye was probably one of the most bland and boring characters that had a major recurring role in the MCU. But he's great in this, I think, and he gets a lot more time. I think that's because of how little he got in the first Avengers. I actually really liked his character a lot, and I forgot how much they devoted to him. I loved his dynamic with Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think his comedy is usually pretty good. Most of the stuff he says, I liked the thing where he's aiming an arrow, where he's aiming an arrow over at Quicksilver. He's like, no one would know.
Last I saw, Ultron was sitting on him. Yeah,
so that poor quick guy, or something like that. And Ryan and I had talked earlier about the film off podcast, and had talked about how Ryan really liked, and you reminded me of the scene where he's talking to Scarlet Witch, to Elizabeth Olsen Scarlet Witch.
Oh, that's one of my favorite lines in Marvel Cinematic Universe history.
He's like, there's a bunch of something like, there's a bunch of robots outside, and I have a bow.
No, he's like, the ground is floating. The ground is the ground is flying, or I remember exactly. The ground is floating. The ground is floating. There's giant robots outside. And I have a bow and arrow.
None of this makes sense.
None of this makes any sense. I love that fucking line because of how self-aware it is. Because it's like, and you can tell, like, and the delivery is also perfect because he's also fucking like laughing as he's saying it. Because it's like almost like him talking to us, the audience, because the situation is fucking ridiculous, and it kind of like gives us an audience a moment to kind of recognize how cool this shit is and how weird this shit is.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, like the delivery it's just a genuinely funny line, and just and it's just kind of works really well with his character. Yeah, you mentioned that. I fucking love that line and the delivery. It's just perfect.
But I will say that this movie is, for better or worse, it's very much a Joss Whedon film. Some of the jokes are really funny, and he's known for really witty dialogue and everything that he does. but also it's a little bit too much at times. I agree with Ryan. I think that there are times where it undercuts the story. I think that oftentimes he tries really hard to make his messages clear. I still like the conversation between Ultron and Vision at the end, but it's also very Joss Whedon. It's everything in this movie feels like it's his movie, and that's some of the pluses and it's some of the failures of the movie. So I think it's like I said, I think it's better than I thought it was. I thought I was actually going to dislike it a lot more. I found myself really actually liking Aaron Taylor Johnson's character more. Not that he's great or anything. I just found myself actually wishing we got to see more of him in the universe. I actually would have been.
What, you didn't see that's coming?
No,
I'm not making fun.
You're just doing his line. That was good.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I don't hate the Banner Scarlet. No, not I say Scarlet because it's Scarlett Johansson. Banner and Black Widow relationship that much. But I also think, again, this is another issue that Whedon's had in the past with women characters, where sometimes he views a lot of their self-worth and maturity to their sexual maturity, and I think that is, and in Black Widow's case, her ability to have kids.
Yeah,
and I think that
it's
the fact that she calls herself a monster.
That was what I was going to say.
Think,
what the fuck is that?
I think it almost feels like there's a line missing, because it almost feels like she's supposed to be saying that about what she's done in the past, her spy career, what she did for other people, but it doesn't play that way at all. And I don't. Look, it could be how she views herself, but I don't think that that's a good play on Whedon either way.
No.
Oh, it's horrible.
No,
I think
terrible.
it's really bad. And the other thing I dislike about the relationship is that it's pretty much only ever discussed or hinted at or talked about even in the the in this movie. They really don't.
They hint at it a little bit.
They hint at it a little bit
when she sees
Infinity War.
When she sees him in Infinity War, there's like a longing stare or something.
And in Civil War, I think like even Tony's like, is there any chance you can get is there any chance that he's coming back, that Bruce is coming back? Like it's hinted at, but it's not really like.
Yeah, I don't know.
But also like Black Widow and I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's not like they're definitely not as heavy as this movie. I think they're kind of getting away from it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I actually didn't dislike their relationship with what they did, and if they were like going to,
especially because they were both monsters, right?
Jesus,
really worked. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. That was great, buddy.
Look,
Proper comparison.
Joss Whedon has been in his life. He's done very dickish things, and there are things that he did wrong. There's still a lot that he did in this movie that's good.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in Avengers he did that's good. And one of my favorite scenes in all of the MCU, which is in The Winter Soldier, that Peggy scene, is done by Joss Whedon. There are good things.
Good on you, Joss.
But yeah, no, I can't. It's impossible to defend that one.
One of the other things. So I was talking a little bit earlier about. Oh, sorry, Zach. Were you gonna start on something?
I was gonna say that there's a scene that I really. We can wait. You go.
Okay, I'll try not to take super long with this, but it's just kind of a callback to what I was talking about earlier, where I was saying that I don't think Captain America is written that well outside of, I don't like the direction, I guess, of Captain America in other movies, other than the movies by the Russos, which in this ones we watched would just be Winter Soldier.
Sure, but what about you don't like him in you didn't. I thought he was fine. I thought he was fine in the first Avenger. In this movie, I don't like Cap at all, and it's really weird. It's not for like decisions or anything like that. I don't like that. It's okay with like, I think it's fine because I've been talking about Chris Hemsworth. I said Alan Taylor didn't do a good job with Chris Hemsworth and Thor, and I think Thor is working in these Joss Whedon films because ultimately that's what Taika Waititi doubles down on with Thor, and it works really well. It doesn't work for Captain America, in my opinion. The quippiness. He can be a little snarky sometimes in the Russo brothers movies, and that's fine. That's just Marvel movie in nature. But in this movie, it's like it's a little too like his character's already a little goofy and a little like over the like, but in a good way. But when they make him kind of like. He's a little too goody two shoes in this.
No, it's not even the goody two shoes. I'm talking about mostly just the. It's not about him being goody two shoes.
I thought it was the jokes.
No, it's just like the weird like quips, as I was saying earlier, that I just don't think works for him at all, and it makes him like not feel consistent with his other movies. Like after watching Winter Soldier and then this, he felt like a completely different character to me. I don't know about you guys, if maybe it's just me.
I can see what you're saying.
It's like jarring. He feels jarringly different. Like some of like the like maybe it's just
like
me. I don't know. It's probably just me. But for me, like when I watched it, I didn't like him as much as I do like watching him in the other Russo brother movies.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. That didn't stick out to me, but I definitely can see
Like,
what you're saying.
I also just thought maybe it's just not Chris Evans' like best quality. Some of those comedic things because like I still cringe like when he throws the motorcycle. It's like it just slipped. It's like ugh, gross. That was just that delivery wasn't good. You know better. Come on now, Joss and Chris. Come on, you're better than that.
You're a monster.
And, like all
Joss.
the jokes. It's Joss. No, I'm not gonna go there. No, yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm probably alone in that, but I just didn't think. I don't like Captain America in Joss Whedon's movies. I think he's like really just kind of. I don't know. I don't know.
I feel what you're saying more. I think in the first Avengers, but I think that was more like I don't think they even really knew what they wanted to do with Cap yet, really. After his first movie, but I can totally see what you're saying. I didn't get that same vibe when watching this, but maybe if I looked at it more closely for Cap's character, I would. I'm
probably alone. That's probably just me. But I don't know. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one scene I really enjoy is the hammer scene where they're all hanging out after a party and trying to pick up Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a consistent one that I always feel like I'm.
The fact that he almost picked up the hammer.
Well, I like the scene in general. I wasn't really focusing
in general
on,
is a cool scene.
On Cap,
I like that scene.
I do like that he almost picked up the hammer because that speaks to Cap's good nature. And
in the comics, he picked up the hammer multiple times.
Yeah,
Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Or, no, I'm sorry, not Mjolnir. Not Mjolnir. Meow Meow.
Yeah.
A lot of people can though. Like I think Hulk's picked it up too.
I think the funniest thing was that he didn't invite Darcy or Selvig to the party. And Selvig's in the movie.
I do want to touch real briefly on.
I have some more stuff.
What?
Go ahead. I have another thing I have to complain. Something I feel like we've been ignoring some things.
I was going to talk about.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But no,
I was just going to make a joke. I was going to say, if you listen to our Halloween episode, you would know that this movie triggers the fuck out of me because they reference meteors and extinction level events about 8 million times.
Yeah, I was worried about you after I watched this.
Okay, we didn't talk about Ultron at all. We'll quickly just say,
oh wow, we didn't talk about Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron was fine.
I think he's good.
The thing that frustrated me about Ultron was that I don't like how quickly it makes sense and it's fine. I would have liked, and this is just expectations for mine. I think he's fine, but I would have loved if they spent some more time with his character, that he came to these conclusions by himself. I don't like that it was almost like it was coded in him that he was like this, and that he saw on the internet like that, because that's what they kind of say, like, oh, it was an error that he's like this. I would have liked it better if he was forged instead of just created like that, like that he actually over time
adapted
he
to
created Ultron and worked with him.
And over time,
and then it was like,
he comes to these conclusions by himself, and it could really work towards his hatred and make his hatred towards Stark work.
And then just eliminate that whole scene where Black Widow calls herself a monster. And
just cut that one out. You can use the time where they're hanging out and just cut out the whole fucking conversation. Right. Problem solved, Joss. You're welcome. That really, I don't know. Do you guys have anything to add about that?
No, I had a different thing, but no, I
have another thing too,
Ultron's
and I think
the shit that pisses me off. If we're going to talk about somebody being too quippy, I think Ultron's a bit too quippy.
I felt that way initially, but I think the point is he is just like Stark.
Yeah, he was made by Stark.
I also think he's a little too quippy because tonally it doesn't work, and Ultron's always been more of like in the comics, like this kind of badass, menacing feature.
It's also made by
creature
him in the comics.
But like
but I would agree with you, Zach.
Like Jarvis isn't that quippy. Like Jarvis is made by Stark, and he's not that. I mean, he is.
Jarvis has
I'm not saying he isn't. I'm saying he's not. Like every other line out of Ultron's mouth is like a joke. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. I think they were trying to do like a parallel between him and Stark and how similar they are, and he hates Stark, but he's just like him, and that was the point.
He also gets mad about being
just like him, and that's kind of the point. But and that's also like when he recites the phrase that Stark said,
right.
And Claw is like, that's what Stark always said. You're must be Stark.
He gets so mad.
So that kind of works, but I agree with you. I think it's like the whole movie. I think is just too quippy in general. if you cut most of that shit out, just in general,
there's also like really weird times of like awkward physical humor. I don't know. I noticed that like this first time, this rewatch, like it's like a weird like. I don't know why this one little scene, like little shot, weirded me out. But like when Cap hits Baron Zucker with his shield in the beginning, there's like he like lands and then for like a split second he goes like oh, and then like his eye thing falls out. It's like that's such a weird.
There's weird like directing decisions as well, and just like editing decisions. What the fuck was up with that like weird sped up shot of like Scarlet Witch like backing up into that door?
Oh yeah,
I think it was just supposed to make her look more, but she never does it again.
No, yeah,
it's so
it's weird,
goofy looking.
They're supposed to make her more witch-like, but that's the only time they ever do it.
Visualization of her power set. It's just strange.
Here's the biggest detriments of the movie, in my opinion.
I think it was where I was gonna go.
Yeah, I think. The barn in general is too long.
Oh no, that's not where I was going.
I think that whole sequence, it was fine. It was a good idea, and I don't hate it. I just think it went on too long, and it kind of hurt the pacing a little bit. And it also just doesn't make a lot of sense in the movie, in my opinion. Like I don't understand why they were able to, like, why they had to hide out for so long. I understand why Hulk had to hide out. That. Well, the reason they had to was because they were lying low from the media, I think. But I understand it with like maybe Hulk. But why the fuck couldn't? Why, like, while they're sitting there doing nothing, Ultron is like putting his plan.
Right, they could just be like it doesn't make sense to me. They could just be like, Banner's not here. Like, I don't know.
They're just sitting by while people are dying. So I thought that was a little odd. That went on too long. And Thor's fucking, I don't know.
So this is where
fucking
waterfall.
Hell. What the
journey to give us that exposition dump out the Infinity Stones for no reason was incredible. And Alan has it. I'm gonna let Alan take the floor on this one.
Well, there's a few different things. First off, I want to say, there's two. This movie does two different times of setting up for future movies. First off, it sets up for Civil War a lot in that barn scene. I think that's handled mostly pretty well. And really, the whole movie kind of sets up.
It does a little bit of that.
Then they have this whole part where they're setting up for Infinity War that has just no base. There's no reason for it. But there's a few different things. First off, the Infinity Stones. There's two different things. First off, Thor does. You cannot convince me that Thor didn't know about the Infinity Stones before now. There's a few reasons. First, Thor, the first movie in 2011. 2011? Yeah. No, yeah. Thor is. There is an Infinity Gauntlet in the throne, like in Asgard. It's fake. We learn that later, but he's never once asked or questioned about it. Whatever. But later in Thor: The Dark World, the post-credit scenes is Thor's best friends taking an Infinity Stone, the Ether, to the Collector, and the Collector says, "Why don't you want to keep this?" And they say, the Tesseract is an Infinity Stone, and it's not safe to keep two Infinity Stones together. So you're telling me that Thor's friends know what Infinity Stones are, and know that they already have one, and know that the Ether is one, but Thor didn't know that and needed to go on this fucking spiritual goddamn retreat in the middle of this fucking movie about robots that have nothing to do with the fucking Infinity Stones, other than this staff that was definitely retconned to be an Infinity Stone. And while we're on that topic, the Infinity Stones are so fucking stupid in that in the early movies, because like nobody knows how to fucking use them, and they have like varying powers. First off, the Power Stone is like crazy fucking OP because one stone is the Mind Stone, which yes, it can create vision, and that's kind of cool, but it also like can like mind control people, but like kind of can't, because like Scarlet Witch, she can like, you know, just make somebody not be mind controlled, or you could just hit somebody on the head and like that's the Infinity Stone. But the Power Stone, touch that thing to a planet and you exterminate all goddamn life. That's just fucking crazy. Also, why does Thanos never use that? Thanos uses the Power Stone at one point to push a little bit harder on Captain America's arms. Captain America's a human. I know he's super powered, but he's a fucking human, and that stone should be able to destroy a planet. Okay. So there's that. Also, the fucking Tesseract. Can somebody fucking explain to me the Tesseract? Because the Tesseract Infinity Stone is fucking stupid. First off, the Tesseract is a weapon that Hydra can use, and it blasts people. But like also it has some sort of like teleport powers, but they don't really go into that. Secondly, we get into the Avengers. What is the Tesseract? It's a power source, and it can do clean power, which by the way is still not that good by comparison to the Power Stone that can blow things up, or even the Mind Stone.
The Tesseract is actually a guy who can lift a portal.
But here's the thing: the Tesseract is actually a doorway. which is a power that we already have on Asgard without an Infinity Stone. Why does this exist? The Infinity Stones are stupid in the early movies, and in the later movies, their powers just don't make sense. Fucking Malekith has no idea how to use the Reality Stone. He just has no fucking clue. He's just shooting red beams at people, and yet, like, when Thanos uses the Reality Stone, he, like, turns, like, a fucking gun into bubbles. Like Malekith could have done that. Malekith could have turned Thor into bubbles. Problem solved. No snap needed.
Malekith could have turned fucking Darcy into bubbles.
I love how that started with Alan talking about Avengers Age of Ultron and, like, the Thor scene, and then turning that into a tangent about the Infinity Stones. I'm sure there's some people that are more knowledgeable about us that will correct us.
I'm
and
sure
correct
there's
you.
some
And
things.
I'm sure. Please do that. That's fine. But yeah, Age of Ultron. That middle sequence was weird. And another thing that pissed me off about that scene going forward was, not even going forward. I'm going to tell you about another scene I hated really quick, and then we'll move on. Unless Zach, you have anything else?
No, go ahead, please. I might add on to what you're saying.
One scene that really pissed me off in that scene. So there's a scene where afterwards when I loved the beginning, like when Tony and Bruce are like, they have Vision, and they want to like finish the creation of him and put Jarvis inside of him. And I love that's very true to Tony's character, and I love how Bruce reacts. And I think that sequence starting off is great. And then I love that, like, Cap shows up and he's not happy about it, and there's kind of like a bit of a mini civil war there about that decision, and they kind of fight each other. That's great. And like, Captain America throws a shield, it takes out all the wires, and I guess that's it. And then Thor pops in out of nowhere and uses his lightning to do it the rest of the way.
But they don't
out of nowhere
or anything,
because we need him because of the Infinity Stones.
I feel like we've touched on this movie for a long time.
We have, yeah. Guys, what are your scores for Avengers: Age of Ultron? Alan, start us off there.
My score for Avengers: Age of Ultron is a 6.5 out of 10. I still really liked it.
Ryan, what is your score for Avengers: Age of Ultron?
I give it a 6 out of 10, which is the same as Thor. No, it's actually better than Thor 1 and Iron Man 3. So it means I did like the movie. I just bitch about it because it was kind of disappointing.
And I'm going to give Avengers: Age of Ultron a 6 out of 10. So Alan, do you want to explain this next little bit here?
Well, first things first, I just want to let everyone know we will cover next week the rest of the MCU movies. So everything else will be covered next week. Sorry.
Now, do you want to explain this next little bit here? This is sort of your baby, and I'm really excited about this. So if you would like to explain this next part, that'd be great.
Sure. So every week we do a Twitter poll where we just go over something from the podcast, and we talk about something related to the podcast, and we ask for your opinions on things. But this week we thought it would be kind of fun if we asked who your favorite Marvel character is, or who you believe the best character is, not by power or strength or anything like that, but just kind of like, like what we think, what is your favorite character. But the Twitter poll only allows you to do 4 per poll. In this case, we decided to, rather than just kind of like arbitrarily come up with 4 characters that are cool and go from there. What we decided to do was actually do 6 polls, and then the top 4 vote getters will move on. And next week, the top 4 vote getters will be in the poll, which will be the final results. So there will be 6 polls. The top 4 vote getters move on to next week. Those 4 will go up against each other, and we'll find out who the community's favorite Marvel character is. In order to do this, Ryan and I worked together to seed the characters from 1 to 24. We did 24 characters. There's very few missing. We had to eliminate a few. It just was going to be too much. And we needed it to be divisible by 4. So with that being said, poll number 1, on who is your favorite or best Marvel character.
And really quick, all of the seating will be included in the description box as well. I just want to let everybody know that as well.
Perfect.
And obviously on Twitter, you can
obviously
vote
on the Twitter poll.
Okay, awesome. So poll number 1. which is, going to include the number 1 seed, is Captain America versus Nebula versus Groot versus Rocket Raccoon. And because Captain America is the number 1 seed, he kind of has the easiest first pull, I believe. But even still, I think Groot and Rocket are both solid characters that could get some pull in there. Pull number 2 is Iron Man and Valkyrie and Falcon and Star-Lord. Pull number 3 is Thor and Drax and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye. Pull number 4 is Hulk and Wasp and Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel. Pull number 5 is Spider-Man and War Machine and Vision and Doctor Strange. And then pull number 6 is Black Panther, Gamora, Ant-Man, and Black Widow. I think that these are, some of these could be tight. I think that there's quite a few of them. I think the Spider-Man pull could be very tight with some really cool characters in there.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. We'll see what get the top 4 numbers, and we'll see where we can what happens next week.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I really hope that this is successful, because I think this could be something that we take to other franchises.
Absolutely.
And other things like that. So this is really exciting. So
yeah,
please,
I think this is
please
really
go
cool.
and vote in this. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try to share it to people so that we get as many votes on this as possible, because I think that's the only way that this is, as successful or fun of an idea. So
definitely. All right, boys. Well, usually every week we do this thing called Weekly Retrospective, where we talk about what we played, watched, bought, did, anything of note. But since we are sort of recording this podcast early, we all pretty much only watch the MCU movies. So I think we should kind of skip past on this one and, wrap up this 2-hour plus episode without the Weekly Retrospective. Do you guys have any objections?
no, I feel good about that.
That sounds good.
There's very few that I watched
Excellent.
that I could put in.
So speaking of Twitter polls, we have the results from last week's Twitter poll. And the Twitter poll results from last week's Twitter poll, which was, what is the best episode of Game of Thrones, is 33% said Battle of the Bastards, with 33% also saying The Winds of Winter, 23% saying The Reigns of Castamere, and 11% saying Hard Home. I'm not really surprised by those answers.
We did record this early, so this tie could be broken.
That's
by
true.
the time that
Yeah. And also, we haven't watched the new Game of Thrones yet. That's why we're not talking about it also. I mean, this is a Marvel episode. It's actually starting pretty soon after we record this, so we'll be watching that soon.
absolutely, yeah, I'm excited.
I can't wait. All right, boys, is there anything that you would like to plug before we say so long? Alan.
Just my Twitter, at Alan Havens. That's AlanHavens.
Alrighty. Ryan, is there anything that you would like to plug today?
At Ryan_Havens, and that is all. Thanks.
Fantastic. Please follow me on Twitter at I am Maurer. Follow Razzle on Twitter at Razzle Review. Please check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Razzle Reviews. Like, subscribe, do all that usual YouTube stuff. Please rate our show on any of of your favorite podcast apps, whatever you listen on. Give the show a rate. It really helps out the show, and it also lets us know that you're enjoying what we're doing. If you have an iPhone or an Apple device, RAZZLEcast is now Siri compatible, so all you have to do is say, hey Siri, play RAZZLEcast, hey Siri, play the newest episode of RAZZLEcast, or hey Siri, subscribe to RAZZLEcast. If you want to possibly get on the show, leave us a message of about 15 seconds or less with any questions, comments, concerns. Call into the Razzle line, which is 267-343-9253. Again, that's 267-343-9253. Links to everything are in the description box down below, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Marvel-filled week.
Avengers.